You're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Wake up.
Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Well, happy Saturday, everybody, and thank you for being so patient. Welcome to J is for Justice. My name is Jay, and I am your host. Welcome, welcome. And Mike Sander was exactly right. Apples have their own mind when it comes to an upgrade and it comes to restarting. So, J is for Donuts. I'm representing today in my own t-shirt. You can get yours in the merch store. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to be discussing the red flag edition of Bryan Kohberger. Let's go over to our boob tube. And if you forgot, these are Bryan Kohberger's hands. All right, so let me move things around here. We haven't been live since Friday. So doggy cam right now is abandoned. Bella is under the bed hiding. I don't know why, but maybe she'll creep out during the live. So let's move her over there. She's not cooperating with mom. I don't know why, but have you guys done anything fun today? I was going to go to the pool and it ended up raining all day. Well, not raining all day, but it's been overcast and just crummy, Hey, Heather, it's so good to see Heather in chat, and Diana and Mary P. and Marie Arnold and all the moderators that are here. We got Megan L. here too from the lounge. Mike Sanner, Shell, the lovely Miss Cheryl, and Jammers. All right, the first red flag. Let's get into our red flags. You guys have waited long enough. First red flag is going to be regarding Bryan Kohberger's fishing job, okay? We're going to go back in time to when Bryan was just a little tyke. He was in his teenage years, and it has been reported that Bryan failed miserably as a fish cutter. I don't know where that came from, but his old boss did a couple interviews, one with the New York Post, and It isn't that he failed at fish cutting. I know that went around, and I don't know, excuse me, I don't know where that came from. But I know that there was a report that Bryan Kohberger couldn't handle cutting the fish. So let's get into this. He spent 4 months working as a fish cutter in PA. Okay, so he lasted 4 months. I've got a job application we're going to be going over. But he did not fail at cutting those fish. So Charles Conklin is the owner of Big Brown Fish and Pay Lakes. Big Brown Fish and Pay Lakes. So it's a lake where people go and pay, obviously, and they fish. And then there's kids there that will cut up the fish, package it, whatever. And this guy goes on to say that, his employees are like family. When he employs these kids in the summer, he knows all the kids, and they get close. But Bryan Kohberger did not get close. He didn't fit in. He wasn't part of the Fish and Pay Lakes family. So this is what he said about it. He said he trained Kohberger how to slice raw fish using industry standard blades, but that he barred him from interacting with customers due to his demeanor. Let me read that again. He trained Kohberger how to slice raw fish using industry standard blades, but he barred him from interacting with customers due to his demeanor. He never warmed up and got friendly. This is a quote. And I can't with this ad right here. White, straight, Republican, and male. Like, how else could I piss you off today? Nice shirt. He never warmed up and got friendly. Most kids that work here we consider like family. He was withdrawn and didn't show improvement. And that's the boss. We're going to get into this more. This is one of the employees there. It's a picture from their website. And then it says records obtained provide information that Kohberger worked for a security guard, and we will get to that as well. And then we go on to hear that he was fired as a teaching assistant at W.S.U. He had a verbal altercation with Professor, and don't laugh, all of you, don't laugh, John Snyder. Not to be mistaken with Bo Luke, not John Schneider, but Professor John Snyder, whom he was assisting, according to a termination letter obtained by the New York Times. So on September 23rd, 2022, him and John Snyder had a verbal altercation. We don't know what happened there, but he met with them to discuss norms of professional behavior. The paper reported, citing 3 sources and a letter that informed him that he failed to meet the conditions required to maintain his funding. So I don't know who I don't know, John Snyder. Maybe someone can get an interview with John Snyder. Look, here's a great ad for everybody. Puff, puff, pass. Oh, man. Did he slap anyone with a fish? No, apparently he was very out of line. Look at it. It says mail order weed is a real thing, and it's amazing. Fucking hilarious. Apparently he was inappropriate, but we're gonna watch a video. Hold up. Oops. Everybody does that. It's okay. Daily Mail. All right. Loner. Loner was fired 3 weeks before his job. 3 weeks into his job at a Pennsylvania fishing lake. See, this is what I was talking about. See this Daily Mail headline? That's where that came from. Look at this. Loner Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger was fired just 3 weeks into his job at a Pennsylvania fishing lake because he was bad at using a knife to fillet fish for customers. He never got the hang of it. So what's the truth? Because he worked there for 4 months. Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger was a withdrawn teenager who was fired from his job as a fish cutter after just 3 weeks because he couldn't get the hang of using a knife. The accused quadruple murder's former boss, Charles Conklin, told Daily Mail that Kohberger lasted just 20 days at Big Brown Fish and Pay Lakes. And then we have dry dog food with some whipped cream on it. And he was a loner. He had that kind of personality. Bryan was somewhat difficult, very shy. Conklin revealed, adding that the accused killer was so unskilled with a knife that he never let the then teenager fillet fish for customers. That's a lie. And then it says here that Conklin told the Daily Mail. Now, I don't know if they threw that in or what, because it says he was young, only 15 or 16, and kind of withdrawn. Definitely stayed to himself. Bryan didn't want to help anyone at work. He liked to sit down when no one was really looking and never wanted to help. He never got the hang of it. He would train with the fish, but we never let him fillet them for the customers. The fishing lake boss added that after the suspect shocked the nation, he didn't even realize it was him until a fellow staffer made the connection. I can't believe it. It's such a horrible thing. You feel so bad for the families. You hate to see him like this, but he never became part of the team. The news was shocking to me. You'd never want to think he could do something so crazy. Being from the area, too, it makes you think. I have no words. And then his run-in with John Snyder is mentioned again. So his run-ins with Professor John Snyder led the educator to pull Kohberger into a meeting to discuss his behavior problems. Now, we just read that was in September, but now this is saying it's just days before he was arrested. But we read it was in September. Phew. Oh, excuse me. I felt that sneeze coming on for like 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. They said that he became more feisty and belligerent with coworkers. And he was fired on December 19th, just days before his arrest. This is Big Brown Fish and Lakes right here. And there's another view. And this guy, I can't remember who they are, these profilers. They think he's definitely killed before, too. Which I was watching that. All right. Gosh, excuse me. Let's get into the Pleasant Valley School District. We're going to read right from Bryan Kohberger's words what he did and how long he worked where. So we've got, I just wanted to show the differing things that come out in the media. One says he was awkward, but both said he was awkward. And then one said he was bad with the knife. But the guy never said that. It's so weird. All right. So here we go. This is an actual employment record that he filled out. And we're going to go through it. So this is from the Pleasant Valley School District. And this is for Bryan Kohberger, 11/10/2015. I don't know why everything's in November. It's right around my birthday and it creeps me out. So November 10th, 2015, Bryan Christopher Kohberger filled this application out, and it says under education, course of study. Or wait, hang on. Elementary school. Pleasant Valley Elementary School, Knuckletown, PA. He looks like he'd be from Knuckletown. And then Pleasant Valley High School, Broadheadsville, PA, years completed 12. Course of study, required curriculum, he put. Describe any specialized training, apprenticeship, skills, and extracurricular activities. And Bryan Kohberger says, I boxed after school every day at Jesse Harris Boxing Gym on 209 near Big Cheese Pizza when it was still open. He's even wordy on his job applications. I also attended a year of the law enforcement program and a year of HVAC at MCTI. So there's his year, his sophomore year, his junior year. We know the sophomore year was the law enforcement program that he got booted or left. We're not sure why.
For donuts.
And then his junior year, he spent in the HVAC program. Let's go on to the next page. So here's his employment experience. Big Brown Fish and Pay Lakes. Dates employed 3/1/2011 to 10/1/2011. Job title fish cutter. Work performed. I cut the fish to the specifications of the customer with an exclamation point. He's very excited about that. $7.50 an hour. Reason for leaving. Needed 1 season. In other words, they aren't hiring me for the next. And then we have BJ's Wholesale Club. Looked like he worked at BJ's as well. He was a meat wrapper.
John Wayne Bobbitt's penis.
Who just said that? Oh my God. BJ's from 3/1/2015 to 7/15/2015. I did multiple things here, mostly the meat wrapping and produce positions. I made sure tags were correct, prices were matching on the outside shelves. I stocked the shelves with meat products, and I unstocked the shipment that came in overnight about 3 or 4 times a week. So he was making $9 an hour there, and then he left because he had an opportunity to make money with my father and resigned. Yikes. What? Meat wrapper, RAPPER. What do you guys think of this? So he left because he had an opportunity to work with Michael? What were him and Michael doing? Because if you look back in court records, Bryan Kohberger's parents filed for bankruptcy 2 or 3 times. I think his dad 3 times, his mom 2. So BJ's is kind of like I think it's kind of like a Sam's. Trey Foe says everybody better be wrapping their meat nowadays. No kidding. So, hey, Mary P. So what he did was he trained his junior year in the HVAC at the tech program in Pleasant Valley School District. Something happened because he was in the freaking law enforcement program, and then the next year he wasn't, and then all of a sudden he's going into HVAC. And then we have him with a job at BJ's making $9 an hour, and he says, "Oh, I can't anymore because I have an opportunity to work with my father doing HVAC." Here we have Bryan's dad again.
Bryan Kohberger.
That was for you, Eddie. My buddy Eddie.
Eddie, what have you done for me lately?
So his senior year of high school, he actually was at home. He did not go to regular high school his last year. There are BJ's up in Massachusetts. It's owned by Sam's. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Right. Scarlett said his dad had employees. Like, what? Had an opportunity to make money with my father and resigned. It really doesn't even say doing HVAC. Note from Bryan to dad. It doesn't say anything about HVAC, though. Totally does not. Hold on. It just says he had an opportunity to make money with his dad. He homeschooled his senior year, and we don't know why. And that's in another video that I did. So we did a video called something where we went over. Oh, Bryan Kohberger was homeschooled, I think it was called. Angie said she's never heard of a BJ store. BJ's. You're welcome, Eddie. All right. So then here is more. State any additional information you feel may be helpful to us in considering your application. I do HVAC with my father, Michael Kohberger.
Bryan Kohberger.
It's a side job here and there that has allowed me to have periods of unemployment. I'm going to need more income now due to the fact that I have a lot of responsibilities and utilities. I do HVAC with my father, Michael Kohberger. It is a side job here and there that has allowed me to have periods of unemployment. I am going to need more income now due to the fact that I have a lot of responsibilities and utilities. And now here we go. I am capable of what is considered pipe work. I can solder, attach pipes, and do some basic HVAC. I learned this from my father. I was the District 11 Skills U.S.A. Regional Champion in 2011 for extemporaneous speaking. I learned how to do more HVAC at MCTI, and I learned how to patrol and do basic security procedures from my year in law enforcement. I was a boxer, and I'm still a runner. I believe dedication and perseverance are the most important skills learned from my activities. I lost 130 pounds at age 15 into age 16, whilst attending school at PVHS and MCTI. I believe this is the proof that I have the required dedication to be successful. And then he gives 3 references. And the only thing that's not blacked out is Pennsylvania on line 1. Have you ever had any job-relating training in the U.S. military? No. Are you currently employed? No. Can you travel if a job requires it? Yes. Now that is that. That's all we have from that job application. But what do you guys think of that? I mean, did Michael Kohberger have his own business? Because all we heard that he was maintenance at the school. No, I don't know, Mary P. I'm not sure. I'm not sure when I thought it was after high school, but it could have been his senior year he started doing it. I don't know. He finished online school. That's all I know. I don't know why. No, here is Perez Hilton with some fish news as well. Some Bryan Kohberger fish news.
You know what I have to say to Ann C. Taylor?
Bring it
on, woman.
Nancy Grace says Ann C. Taylor needs to bring it on, woman. All right. So here is Perez Hilton's version of the fish story. Cute, huh? It says, okay, we'll just preface this by saying this is in no way evidence, but it's pretty weird. Look, is that a sign? True crime enthusiasts following the case of the UI murders already know that Bryan Kohberger has a pretty troubled past, but long before he was fired from his job at WSU for being creepy and unprofessional, he was creepy and unprofessional at a very different gig, one involving a knife. Former boss of the accused killer come forward to take on his take on Kohberger. Charles Conklin of Big Brown Fish and Pay Lakes said he worked for him about 4 months in 2011. He was 16. Kohberger cut and filleted raw fish customers caught at the lakeside establishment. Conklin told the outlet he trained the teen to do the job himself. While he didn't have anything negative to say about the kid's knife skills, the entrepreneur says he had to make a rare accommodation for him. He could stay in the back and do his work cutting as long as he never interacted with customers. He was banned from talking to them at all due to his upsetting personality. He never warmed up and got friendly. Most kids here we consider family. He didn't show any improvement between that job and this one. While he was officially let go from his TA job for lack of professionalism, sources from his school revealed Kohberger didn't have a problem just with professors. He had a problem with women. He allegedly graded them more harshly and treated them disrespectfully. In addition, he creeped some out, with multiple sources even telling the New York Times that a girl complained he scared her by following her to her car. Disturbing stuff. Look, here's a cool bra. Oh, look, an 80-year-old grandmother designed a bra for women that is popular all over. Fuck yeah. Popular all over the place. Grandma bra. Yep, can't see shit. I need new glasses. And oh, look, birds. Birds, because we talked about Ethan Crumbly and the birds. That's so wrong. This, I don't know. Weed trimmer. What is my ads? Kohberger was put on an improvement plan by the school, but he apparently failed to show improvement this time either and was let go just before Christmas break. So there is that. You guys are cracking me up. Ooh, okay. Now we're going to get into a video. This is something that I had never seen. But Anjanette Levy from Law and Crime, she interviewed Kohberger's neighbor. Remember the guy that lives upstairs? Well, she ended up speaking with the woman that was going to go tell Bryan to be quiet, but she never did. So Anjanette Levy went and knocked on her door, and this lady was willing to talk to her. Now, she lives upstairs from Bryan Kohberger.
Bryan Kohberger.
You ever hear anything up there or anything like that?
Yeah, we heard, we heard loud sounds during the night.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah.
Not just once. And so it seemed like he's a night person, not do a lot of things during the day, but during the night he's very active.
Right.
To like clean the floor sometimes, with vacuum. It's very loud sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, I keep telling the journalists and reporters that is what we heard from the upstairs.
Yeah. But it was just, he was a night person vacuuming or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even sometimes like in the bathroom wash and very late. It's not like what is the regular time.
Yeah.
Very late night he would do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we got stuff, and many times.
Did you ever ask him to quiet down or anything? Or?
I actually wanted, but I didn't try.
Yeah.
And once when I met him, we just say hello. I just want to say, could you please keep it quiet because we wake up during the night and have kids in it. but I didn't do that. I think maybe because he just moved in at August, maybe he needs time to get used to it.
Sure.
America, the parents of Bryan Kohberger went before a Pennsylvania grand jury, possibly looking into the disappearance and death of a young mother.
How long have I been muted? I see it now. I looked over and I saw you're too loud. I'm like, what? How long? What was the last thing y'all heard? God.
Bryan Kohberger.
Gotta be kidding me. Could you hear the video at least? Oh my God. 4 minutes? Oh my gosh. How embarrassing. Okay, so the last thing we played was the girl. Okay, I remember now. Good God, I'm so sorry. What I was saying is that he was vacuuming and up at night, and it just seems weird that someone who has to get up and go to school and is taking classes and is a TA, that they would, have to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. 5 minutes. Oh my gosh. Okay, like a minute. I look at my chat quite a bit. But when I'm reading, I do glance over. That's when I saw. I was like, "What? What do you mean I'm too loud?" I'm pretty good at looking at the chat. You guys have to. There's exclamation point unmute. If I'm ever muted, do that, and it puts that craziness in chat. So sorry. So anyway, I was just saying, like, why is he up all night? Like, it's just kind of weird to carry those hours. And then he was having the late nights with the students coming to his office. And he was, making them feel uncomfortable, shutting the door, having students meet him at night. It was just inappropriate. And I think he was talked about that. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry has been a member for 9 months. You could have had a baby in that time, Jerry. Hey, Punani. Mark Klein says he mowed the grass like Mr. Laundry twice, waiting. Never fails. Yes, the mute one. I didn't see either one, but it's okay. Thank you. At least it was only a minute. So then we have here this article that says the Pleasant Valley School Board approved the resignations of both the high school and intermediate school principals at its meeting on Thursday night. High school principal Matthew Triolo and the intermediate school principal Todd Briner are among 15 employees whose resignations were approved. The others include Hillary Atkinson, a teacher at the elementary, Bryan Kohberger, a security officer, 3 substitute paraprofessional associates, 4 substitute secretaries, 5 substitute teachers, and a casual security officer. Don't you think that's weird? Thank you so much, Jackie Bushable. Jackie is so bushable. Thank you, Jackie Bushable. Detra Ed says that's why I was wondering if he was using again as a TA. I think it's possible, for sure. And what really makes this horrible is because I'm terminally ill and both parties knew my husband cheated on his dying wife. Betrayal. Ian Johns, what? Oh, look back and find out when it went silent. Oh, yeah, it's too much work. I see you, Licia. Maybe they should drug test TAs. Yeah. Sabrina left me a voicemail. You guys, we have a hotline. We have a voicemail set up. If you guys want to sound off on anything, I'm going to be using your messages possibly in a video or a live. So if you want to leave me a message, if you want to give me a case suggestion, you want to say, hey, you sucked because you mute yourself all the time. Whatever you want to say. It is open for you.
Cut his mic. Cut his mic.
Yes, he could cut a fish like a motherfucker, Kimmy. He was the best fish cutter this side of the Mason-Dixon, whatever that means. So anyways, all these people resigned, and then it says it was not said at the meeting where Triolio is going. And this is from July 16th, 2021. Pleasant Valley loses 2 principals, and then it lists actually Bryan Kohberger. It says the resignations of our high school and our intermediate school principals are a tremendous loss to this district. Oh, I see. I pretty much let go. So they never got back to pre-pandemic numbers. The school board said furloughs were not completely off the table, but were not being considered at this time. They wanted to wait and see if enrollment numbers would return to pre-pandemic levels. Preliminary enrollment numbers showed a strong return of students from various cyber charter schools, including the district's own cyber academy. In addition to these 17 employees, the district saw the retirement of 6 teachers. So here's Donna Yozwiak, the one that talked about Bryan. I want to extend my thanks for their dedication, all 17 people, and wish them the best of luck in the new chapter of lives they are entering. So that was in 2021. I wonder if his mother was let go as well. I wonder if his mother was let go. Because it said that they lost 3 substitute paraprofessionals, 5 substitute teachers, and Bryan Kohberger. So that was in 2021. Lots of stuff going on with this kid. And from 2015 to 2021. Lots going on with him. All right, what other red flags did we have for you tonight? All right, we're going to talk. We're going to play some Nancy, your favorite. Bryan Kohberger. All right, so here, this is a clip about Kohberger and cameras. This is another red flag. This is another red flag for Bryan Kohberger. Oops. And there's Jenny W's J is for Justice mug that she just got. All right. I'm going to put that up. We're going to watch Nancy for just a second. I feel like I got to sneeze again, guys.
Bryan Kohberger looking at a string of alleged incidents all the way back to allegedly stalking some of the Idaho 4 via digital, via social, in months leading up to their murders, seeking them out online, at least one, if not more, of the girls on King Road. How did he find them? Did he somehow run into them when he was there, finding an apartment or touring campus there at WSU, Washington State University? Is that when their paths collided? Did they know they were being watched? Did they ever read his emails he sent introducing himself or trying to hook up with them? Or did it go into a spam folder? Then we have the incident where he allegedly went into a female colleague's home there at Washington State University and moved things around in her apartment, manipulating her into coming to him and saying, "Oh, my stars, guess what happened? Some freak's been in my apartment." And then he swoops in like the savior and sets up her Wi-Fi, finding out the password and security system so he can spy on her remote, even from his phone whenever he felt like it. I mean, what kind of a kick do you get from watching somebody else watching TV or doing the dishes or doing her hair, or the Lord only knows what else he watched? Did he install more cameras than what she knows about? Then we have another alleged incident where a neighbor of the King Road victims, the 4 victims, Maddie, Xana, Kelly, and Ethan, that has items taken out of a suitcase which was in her car, and the underwear shoved into the door, the car door, around the time of the murders, leading up to the murders. What else is there? Is there more?
The story of a student in one of Kohberger's TA classes. The alleged killer installing cameras in her apartment after a break-in.
He is now a suspect both in the initial break-in and for reasons of putting a camera in her apartment to which he would have had access.
Maddie, Xana, Kelly, and Ethan, that has items taken out of a suitcase which was in her car, and the underwear shoved into the door, the car door, around the time of the murders, leading up to the murders. What else is there? Is there more?
The story of a student in one of Kohberger's TA classes. The alleged killer installing cameras in her apartment after a break-in.
He is now a suspect both in the initial break-in and for reasons of putting a camera in her apartment to which he would have had access.
Yikes, yikes, yikes. So we have Keith Morrison confirming that he is an official suspect in a burglary. That he's not only the one that put the damn cameras in her room or in her apartment, but he is an official suspect in the burglary. And this is coming from Keith Morrison of Dateline NBC.
And cameras in her apartment after a break-in.
He is now a suspect both in the initial break-in and for reasons of putting a camera in her apartment to which he would have had access.
Okay, so who is this girl? Who's the girl? Who's the girl he put cameras in her apartment? Is it one of the victims? Is that the burglary charge, or is he charged with burglary for entering the mosque or the King Road home? Do you think this is a separate incident, or do you think that he put cameras in the King Road home and they're just not saying it? What do y'all think? I think it's very weird that he knew where all these rooms were. He knew how to get around that home. Inside looking? Possibly. Possibly. Got another video I put together for you guys. Not that one. Here's more red flags coming from Pennsylvania. Enjoy this flick.
Pennsylvania, where Bryan Kohberger spent most of his life before moving to Washington State. Tonight, we talk to friends and former classmates to piece together the history of the suspect charged in the Idaho College murders case.
I looked it up, I typed, Idaho murders, and then, like, holy crap, that's Bryan. That's Bryan. I know Bryan, That's wild to me.
This Pennsylvania man has been friends with Kohberger since the 8th grade. How did he get started in drugs?
He got in drugs via an acquaintance of his. It was definitely heroin. It was pretty gnarly.
He reveals the ups and downs of Bryan Kohberger's life. And we'll talk to a college student who says he saw another side to the criminology student turned accused murderer.
Very intense stare. I remember that. I'll never forget that. Looking right into my soul almost, as we were having this back and forth.
Who the person in a prior life? I want to bring in someone who knew him, the suspect personally, Rich Pasqua. You worked with him for a period of time. Rich, what can you tell me about the suspect? What was he like?
He was just your average guy. I met him through some friends, and they told me that he was a little weird, and he was a little socially awkward, I guess you could say. But he wasn't a bad guy. He needed a job, so I worked at a pizza shop at that time.
Another job.
They were hiring. I said, yeah, come on in and apply, and he did, and he got the job. So I worked with him for a little bit. But he was quiet, though.
What was conversation like with him?
What was that?
What was conversation like with him? Like when you talk with him at work, would he look you in your eyes? Did he have friends? Did he have a girlfriend at the time?
It was so long ago. It was like 2013, but he didn't have a girlfriend. I do remember that. And my wife went to school with him. They graduated together, and she doesn't remember him ever having a girlfriend, and I don't remember him ever having a girlfriend. And he didn't have many friends, so he would do anything to fit in, and would do you know, he just wanted to be liked by everybody. But he wasn't a bad kid. Like, you know, he was all right. And I knew his sister. I went to school with his sister. And I knew his father worked for the school.
See? So this guy's like, I went to school with his sister. My wife went to school with him. He was into heroin. This guy used to be into heroin. And that's how he knew.
Bryan Kohberger.
And I believe his mother did too. But his family, they were all nice people. And, you know, his dad was always really nice to me, very polite. But I never thought that he would do something like that.
Good copy. So we've heard from some people that surrounded him that there may have been drug use in his life prior as well. Did you know him to use drugs or anything like that, sir?
Yeah, he did use drugs. That's how I really know him too. He was a big heroin addict, and so was I. I got 6 years clean now. I work in treatment and everything, but back then I was using, and so that's how I know for a fact he was using. I've got high with him a couple times and used with him, and I remember one night we went out and his car broke down, and his dad had to come out, and he got pretty angry. Well, because his car broke down and everything, and we couldn't get what we needed that night, and
his car broke down and we couldn't get what we needed that night. And who got mad?
He was using. I've got high with him a couple times and used with him. And I remember one night we went out and his car broke down, and his dad had to come out, and he got pretty angry. Well, because his car broke down and everything, and we couldn't get what we needed that night. And you know, I knew other people that dealt drugs, and we would deliver drugs to him a lot. And so that's when I heard about this case. I haven't heard from him in so long. And then I heard about this, and it said that he was going to college. I said, I haven't heard from him. I guess that's what he's been doing. He must have cleaned up. I know he was in and out of rehab a couple times, but he really did. He cleaned up, and
he was in and out of rehab a couple times. And the truth slowly comes out as we go back and listen to these interviews.
He was in and out of rehab a couple times, but he really did. He cleaned up and was going to college all these years.
Rich, I'm short on time, but I got to ask you one last question. We've heard from people that he had a track record of being inappropriate, borderline offensive to women. Did you ever see that in any of your interactions with him and interactions with women?
Not in my time knowing him. I've never seen him ever act like that towards women. I've never seen him come off that way ever towards anybody.
A case of life imitating art? Murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's sister appears in a gory slasher film.
I must be out of my mind.
34-year-old Amanda Kohberger has been there with the rest of her family to support her brother. Years earlier, in 2011, she had a part in a low-budget film 2 days back.
Okay. Now, here we are in that same time frame, 2011. His sister lands this part in a movie. Now, look at Bryan Kohberger. He goes and he gets a job at a fish place. And his boss says, what does his boss tell him? I don't want you talking to customers. You stay in the back and cut fish. Meanwhile, Amanda's getting a lead role in a slasher movie. Can you imagine how proud Marianne and Michael Kohberger were of Amanda when she got the lead part in this movie? Meanwhile, Bryan is being told, don't talk to customers. I'm sure that this made him resentful. I'm not saying this is fact, but it could have sparked resentment because everything he did, he didn't do well until he started going to criminology school. But I'm sure this was a big deal for Amanda. And isn't it crazy that he ends up doing what happened in this movie?
there with the rest of her family to support her brother. Years earlier, in 2011, she had a part in a low-budget film, 2 Days Back. The movie has a typical horror movie plot: students who venture into the woods only to be slashed to death. Her name appears in the credits. The movie director says he was floored when Bryan Kohberger was arrested in the University of Idaho slayings case. His sister played Lori in the film.
The first reaction is shock. The first reaction is, oh my God, are you kidding?
Kevin Boone says Amanda Kohberger came to an open call.
She came and auditioned. We liked her, so I offered one of the major roles.
You got to also think, man, eerie coincidence too between what happened in Idaho and this movie where it's young people getting stabbed.
Yeah, I can understand where people would want to make this connection.
Bryan was really funny. He wasn't outgoing at all. But he also wasn't shy.
He aspired to be an Army Ranger. A classmate of Kohberger's from here at Pleasant Valley High School in Pennsylvania has reportedly said that the now quadruple murder suspect was out of shape and overweight in his younger years until he took a boxing class. And that's when the friend says his whole demeanor changed. He became aggressive and was always looking to pick fights.
What do you guys think? I never really thought about the sister things so much until now, honestly. I never gave it that much thought until today, actually. All right, now we've got some other red flag quotes. Hold on. Let me send these to myself. Yeah, you guys want to call in? Ethan Crumbly wanted to be an Army Ranger. I know. Why is that so weird? Lucia, you might want to leave and come back in because the sound is fine. All right, we'll do call-ins in just a second. Let me show you a couple of these screenshots. And then an anonymous college classmate of Kohberger's recalled him frequently taking contrarian viewpoints in classes and getting into heated arguments with other doctorate students. The classmate said Kohberger seemed to have more disagreements with women, including one incident that led to a female doctoral student storming out of the classroom after accusing Kohberger of mansplaining. What is mansplaining? What exactly does that mean? All right, let's open up the phone lines. Lisa, he's a first-class creep, in my opinion. I don't disagree with you there. I think a lot of these are red flags that we wouldn't normally think. We'd just think, whatever, that's just not for him, or whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden, they do something like this, and everything kind of pieces together like a puzzle. So let's test our audio. Can you guys hear that? And that. If we can hear all that, we're good to go. Whoever wants to call in, go right ahead. 727-755-6001. Go ahead and give us a jingle. Let us know what's on your mind. Get that up on the screen. I see a lot of you saying, I don't believe these, accounts or whatever, but it's all we have to go on, and I'm not saying that these are all, 100% the facts are correct, but what else do we have to go on other than, just making shit up? We really don't have anything other than what people he knew say. I want to thank Punani and Jackie Bushable again. Mansplaining is accused when a guy points something out or explains something to a female. Some women think it's degrading them, and it's not. Yeah, I've never used that term, so I'm... General Sorrow says, I'd tell you what it was, but it would be mansplaining. Yeah, I've never used that term. I don't get worked up about, but a lot of, you got to remember too, he's in the university system, and it's very liberal. So there's going to be a lot of feminist women. Oh, we've got a caller.
Call from
Eddie.
It's Eddie.
To accept.
Hey, Eddie.
How are you doing, Jay?
Hey, I'm good. Nice to hear from you.
Well, thank you. It's been a while since we've spoken.
It really has. What's going on?
Well, as you know, I don't think he did this.
I know you don't.
And like Sergeant Friday was saying, these interviews with random people from his past, that has little value. It's little more than hearsay.
Well, I agree with you that it is definitely hearsay.
Yeah.
But we don't have anything else to go off of, right? I mean, we don't have anybody coming forward going, hey, this guy was stand up. All these people that are saying all this stuff, they're wrong. Like, I never saw him do this or that. I mean, but all these little things, Eddie, are adding up. And that's what I mean by the red flags. Like, being told to stay in the back at work, that's pretty major. Like, I don't know if I would stay at a job that the boss told me, you could stay back here, but you're not to talk to customers. I would have been like, screw off. I'm out of here. I'm going to find another job.
Well, there's no one saying that he's not awkward.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite common. So I don't know if we can, read much into that.
Well, okay. So you're admitting that he's awkward.
Well, he could be. He seems to be.
He seems to be socially awkward.
Yeah.
Now, socially awkward doesn't equal a murderer, right? We agree on that. However, you can't ignore all of these red flags. A drug user who could have relapsed. We don't know that. I mean, that's another possibility, which sends up a red flag.
Do you think if this goes to trial that the prosecution is going to have to address the jury and speak about what they suggest his motive is?
I don't know.
In a circumstantial case, I would think that would be, part of it. The jury's going to want to hear, like, well, why?
Maybe, but...
What does he have to gain?
But see, there's not always a why in a serial killer case, right? We never really get a why, even though we want one. But how do we know it's strictly circumstantial?
Well,
that's debatable.
Up to this point, it is.
Well, that's debatable because we don't know what they have, right?
Well, and that goes both ways because we don't know if they have more, and we don't know then on the defense if they have enough to just, refute.
Right. But we have to assume, right? We have to use our logical thinking, right? That they're not going to pursue the death penalty if they don't have any evidence.
Well, see, that is not true because if this is a frame job, in Bill Thompson is an actor, he's going to have to sell it. He's going to have to do his best job acting. I don't think this is going to even go to court, and I don't think it's designed to go to court. This is not so much about a conviction. This is more about an indictment. This is not about sending Bryan Kohberger to prison. This is about making sure that whoever did this doesn't go to prison.
Okay, so who do you think that they're covering for then?
I don't know. I think it's really deep.
But how can you... see, that's what doesn't make sense to me. You're saying it's a cover-up, and you think it's deep, and you don't think this guy did it, but there's no proof that anybody else did it. We have no evidence that anybody else did it. We have no other persons of interest but Bryan Kohberger.
Kohberger.
Proof he did it.
But who did it then? And why would the cops want to frame this dork that just moved there 2 months prior that nobody even knows? There's no reason for it. Like, he just moved there. He failed at every job he had. He failed at his tech programs at school.
He's a PhD student. I mean,
Well,
give him some credit
he
for
did
having-
well with that's what I said. The only time he did well was when he went to school for the criminal justice and after that. But that could be because of his interest in people's minds and killing.
No, I don't think he's got it in him to do that.
Well,
And
do
it's
you
gonna
know
take
him, Eddie? Do you know him, or did you know him at some point? I'm just wondering.
No.
You just seem like you have a soft spot for Bryan Kohberger.
No, not. I don't. I just have a soft spot for our constitutional rights. There is nothing up to this point that says that he has any concrete evidence other than these weak circumstantial bits of evidence. There's not one shred of physical evidence against him.
We don't know that, though.
Well, right now we do. There's no direct evidence tying him to this crime, and people are not even putting themselves in his shoes. Like, what if that was you and you were wrongfully accused, like Ronald Cotton? Just because someone's been arrested and indicted, it doesn't mean anything, and that's not an arguing point in the courtroom for the prosecution.
I feel like being indicted for a quadruple murder means a lot, especially when they want to take his life. They want to put him in front of possibly a firing squad. I would think that they would have to have their case wrapped up with a bow. And now let's talk about the possible blood evidence. Okay?
Okay.
And how he wants, what really bothers me with every, and I'm gonna say in the beginning, I was like, you know what, open mind. The more we find out with every motion, I think this guy's playing more and more games. And it pisses me off because A, he's wasting taxpayer dollars playing games, and B,
I don't think it's fair to say that.
And I don't blame his lawyer for making all these filings. I mean, she's got to do what her client wants, right? He's got to get a fair representation. And he's getting that. Clearly getting that. She's doing everything that she can. She's filing every motion that she can. Now, I want you to go back and look at Ted Bundy's docket for his trial. Just as, something similar, a big death penalty case, right? It was huge. The first televised court trial, and this guy he represented himself in the end. Look at his docket. And I know it's a similar case, similar murders, but his docket is so long, and I see this going down the same path. He objected everything. Motion to move, motion to get rid of jurors, motion this, motion that. But what Bryan Kohberger's doing is saying, like, oh, well, they're not telling us where this piece of evidence is. They're just giving us page number. Well, that's all you get. Because it's up to the defense to look through that discovery. It's not the prosecution's job to make everything all organized for Bryan Kohberger and his lawyers to sift through. So that really bothers me because he really is fishing, it seems like, in delaying just to see what they have. What way are they going to go? Who do I need to focus on? Who do I not need to focus on? What do you think of that?
No, these delays are just the natural results of the defense finding inconsistencies in, the investigation and the prosecution's work.
Well, they should be able to find inconsistencies by studying the discovery, because both sides have the same things, right? But it's not the prosecution's job to bullet point what they're focusing on and tell Bryan Kohberger. They all get the same thing, and the prosecution forms their narrative, and then they use the discovery for their narrative. He doesn't know what their narrative is. He's trying to figure it out.
Well, like these, motions to compel discovery that we've seen, and Ann Taylor has even come out and said, I don't think it's not the prosecution that's withholding this evidence, right? Everyone's familiar with that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's an agency, that was responsible for the investigation that's withholding that evidence. So these delays are the result of the prosecution side, the investigation side of things.
Not just, but it's not just them. The alibi, he needed more time. That was another motion. He needed more time to get his alibi together, and then he didn't have one. Then he says, it'll come out in testimony. I mean, who's going to want to sit in jail that long if you have an alibi in your back pocket? Produce it. He needed more time. He still didn't produce it. I think he's just playing games.
Well, the alibi is not going to get him out of jail.
Why wouldn't it? An alibi puts
It doesn't
you...
work that way. You can use it in the courtroom, but it's not like, here's my alibi,
If he can prove that if he has video of himself somewhere else when those murders occurred, he most certainly could get out of jail.
Do you think that the detectives are that foolish that he can produce such an alibi as
If you weren't there and you can prove it, you certainly, yeah.
What would the detectives? I mean, Bill Thompson, when he got this case, he said, there's enough to go arrest this guy. Let's go get him. This is an airtight case. You think that once Bryan Kohberger produces this video of him being a state away at that time, what is Bill Thompson and the investigators, these detectives, going to say? Oopsies.
Well, I don't know what they would say, but if he definitely was somewhere else and he could prove it, he would. No one wants to sit in the county clinker.
I think he can prove it.
Then
but
he would have if he could.
Well,
because he said Bethany had it. Remember, first it was Bethany had it. And then he wanted to bully Bethany and get her have to stare at his creepy face after he killed her friends, and he wants her to have to sit on that stand and intimidate her. And that's why they said, F you, we're doing a grand jury. You're not going to get to do this.
A lot of things there. That's not what it is.
What is it?
That she's afraid to stare into his face.
You don't think she's afraid of him?
No, I think he's afraid of something.
Even if he did,
Moscow.
okay, even if he's innocent, he's still the one accused of killing her friends. I'd be scared.
No, I think she knows that he didn't, and she's afraid of something bigger.
I think you're putting way too much into this.
I challenge us all. Let's watch and see what happens. This won't even go to trial, and it's not meant to.
It may not.
And the funny thing is, in the case of someone who's truly innocent, that would normally be an ideal thing. Like Ronald Cotton, the case gets dismissed. He's happy, but the irony here is that when this one doesn't go to trial, it's worse off for Bryan. He's better off going to trial and proving that he's innocent, which he would be able to. But when it gets dismissed and he's not able to prove his innocence, this floor is still going to be divided, and the people that are entrenched that right now we're arguing with, like we are right now, you're not ever going to sway them. They are rooted in their opinion of his guilt because of what the media and this smear campaign is doing, and that's part of it.
See, I just want to say, Eddie, though, I'm not like that, though. I'm not going off just, the media. I'm going off what I've read, what I've seen. I'm taking everything in, and it's just not adding up good for him because there's no other person of interest. Who's the other POI? Like somebody.
You'll never find him.
So there's just this mystery guy that's just gone, and they set up Bryan Kohberger, and they made him bleach his hands, and they made him have a cut on his wrist the next day and go to the doctor 4 days later. I mean, we got to use our common sense. And I love you, Eddie.
On his wrist.
I love you,
and I love
Eddie.
you too.
I love you, Eddie, and I love you, and I love your opinion. And you know that you are always respected with me, and I want chat to be respectful.
Likewise.
Because we do respect each other's opinions. We're grown-ups, and we can agree to disagree. And you know what, Eddie?
Those are not
I'm looking forward to going through this process with you, and I hope that you keep checking in because it's going to be interesting as things unfold, right? And you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm not afraid to say I was wrong. And if I end up being wrong about Bryan Kohberger, I will definitely rethink my position on things that I take in and my gut feeling from things that I get, if that's fair enough.
Oh, that's fair. And likewise, I would come on your channel and say I was wrong.
And maybe then we can discuss maybe what we jumped on and what we didn't jump on. Sound good?
It does.
All right, I got another call coming in, but thank you so much, Eddie.
I'll let you take
You
the
know
call.
you're always welcome here.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, bye.
Call from Teresa.
Teresa girl.
Hey.
Hey, you got through. You're live. What's up?
That guy was driving me crazy. I'm sorry. I just had to call.
I saw you in chat. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to call in. Well, we all agree to disagree. And I know Eddie has had this stance. You know, he hasn't faltered on his stance. So I do respect everybody's opinion. But what are you thinking? Like, what do you think these were all red flags? What's going on in your mind?
Well, I also think that there's a whole lot that the police have that we have no idea about.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I mean, they're not telling us all the evidence they have. It seems like there's a faction of the society that thinks that we know everything that's been stated, and of course they have a lot more than that. There's probably tons of DNA in that house or under the fingernails.
Sure. Did you see my video I put out a little while ago about the blood?
Yes.
I caught that. It was Mark Furman. I know people hate him, but he was talking about how if he got well,
OJ did it too, by the way.
Yeah, yep. So if he got cut and his blood ended up at that scene, and it was in one of those motions that he was wondering about the testing, the lab testing,
Right.
and I think that he's wondering if they found his blood, because I can't remember. I'd have to find it, but there was a motion where he was asking about the lab testing of, I don't know if it
Right.
said blood, but then when I thought about that cut, it looked like a cut on his arm in the traffic stop.
Well, I think it's nearly impossible to do it what was done to those kids and not have gotten cut.
Yeah, especially if we heard that Xana fought back. Her dad even said it.
Right. I mean, I know that he came up on them when they were sleeping, so that's, I guess that would make it a little less fight worthy, but I'm sure that a couple of them fought back. So
Gonk says,
Gonk
says in chat, if they had that stuff, why not bring it up? That would end all suspicion. They don't have such things. See, that's exactly what you were just saying.
Why would they want to do that?
Right. They don't need to end suspicion with us. They don't care about us. They care about locking up a murderer. Whoa. What happened? Did you drop us?
I think that Kohberger wants to know what they know so that he knows how he wants to play it, whether he wants to try to go for a plea or not. And I don't even know if they'll give him a plea at this point.
Yeah, I wonder if it's been talked about yet. I wonder if it's been talked about yet, because a lot of people get mad at me because I compare him with Bundy, but damn, the more that I watch the Bundy trial, it's on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I watched it.
Isn't it crazy?
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah, and I can see him being just like that. I mean, it's so gross that isn't it weird how they show in that trial, they show the jury. They like film the jury.
Dude, yes, they show the jury come in and they sit right there, like right up on the judge.
Right.
And they show him the whole time.
Yeah, the fact that they allowed him to cross-examine
the victims,
people that were his victims.
Yep.
I mean, that's just insanity.
Yep. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, so this is what I've learned, Teresa. They put together, and the reason why I focus on Bundy so much is because I think it was the late 90s, don't quote me, but there were agencies from every state that Bundy killed in that put together a task force to study Bundy, what he did, and how he got away with what he got away with. Like, how did we not catch him? So knowing that, they studied Bundy, They had a task force just for Bundy. And then you see a lot of the similarities in Bryan's moves. You know, you see a lot of the parallels.
Well, you also see, someone else has said that too, that he went to Washington State, which is where Bundy was, and God knows if he was going to go to Florida.
Sorority house, the sorority girls. The only thing that's different between them is that Ted was described as charming, and Bryan has never been described as charming.
Yeah, well, Ted could talk to people easily.
Right.
I don't know. He also is he's got a little BTK vibe. I mean, I'm wondering if when he took that class at the sales with, what is her name? Catherine
Ramsland.
The one who wrote the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you he was just studying things to do.
Right.
Because that's another guy that just went
for sure. There's things for BTK as well. So that's why I think, like Eddie was saying, he doesn't think it's going to go to trial. In one way, I hope it doesn't, because watching Ted Bundy's and how the victims were re-victimized, and then he was so condescending to those poor girls.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was awful. Yeah. So I'd hate to see Bethany and Dylan go through that. So.
But the other thing though is that like Gonzalez, that family is going to be really upset if he gets a plea. Well, maybe they won't, but I could see them being upset if he gets a plea deal that takes life off the table, or the death penalty off the table. But who knows?
You know what else was interesting about Bundy's thing was the bite mark was really the evidence they had against him. And
oh yeah, totally.
I don't know if you watched that clip where they talked to the forensic guy who studied the photograph and made it like a topographical image.
Right.
So it was funny back in that day. They were like, what do you mean you enhanced the image? And I think I'm going to clip that and play that for everybody, because they're like, what do you mean you enhanced it? And he's like, we enhanced it. You know, it made this look this way. And he's like, so you manipulated it.
Any crimes were solved in those days.
Yeah, and they were like, you manipulated it then. He's like, no, I didn't manipulate it. I enhanced it. So it was big to do.
Didn't he have to show his teeth? I mean, didn't he open his, I mean, he had very distinct.
He did they had to force him. So what they had to do was they had to force him to do a bite thing, a mold of his mouth.
Like bite into a mold.
Yeah, they had to strap him down because he wouldn't do it.
It was like an OJ it don't fit move. He could have
yes, but the thing is, it was the technology of how they studied the photo of the body, the bite mark on the body, and they were arguing the new technology. So I think you're going to see them argue the new technology for the DNA. I think that's going to be a same. Bundy's was the new technology for the picture of the bite mark. His is going to be the technology getting the touch DNA from the knife sheath. But I think they're going to be a step ahead, and I think they're going to have something more than just that DNA on the knife sheath to say, boom, we still got it.
And the other thing that people don't seem to understand that you hear all the time is that they say, oh, it's just circumstantial evidence, which most murders are circumstantial. Most people aren't getting filmed while they're murdering somebody, right?
Right.
And so it's all going to be circumstantial.
Right. You're right. I mean, that's what they didn't have DNA and they didn't have cameras back in the day, so they had to they had to convict on circumstantial evidence, and it happens all the time.
Bundy was the worst. Bundy was the absolute worst. The things that he did were just horrifying.
Well, I just feel like watching that, yes, it is horrifying. And the victims, just the way that he brought them back through that.
He even brought his head home or something. I think he brought a head home to burned it in his girlfriend's fireplace or something.
But you know what else they did with the girl that saw him leaving the sorority house? I can't remember her name now, but.
Oh, yeah, one of the ones that was up on the witness stand?
Yes. She was one he walked past, and she saw him leaving the house. And she saw his nose. So his beak was what she identified Bundy on. And I saw the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, with Dylan, the eyebrows, right? She said he had bushy eyebrows. Well, the girl in the Bundy case saw his nose. And then they really browbeat her about her ID of him. Oh, they showed you pictures. You did this, you did that. Yeah, no pun intended. But it's like, I can see what the defense could possibly do to the surviving roommates, and I'd hate to see them go through that. So I hope he pulls a BTK where he knows and he's backed in a corner, he's going to get the DP, or he could admit what he did, and BTK stood up and told details of everything.
Well, see, the thing with Bryan and with BTK is that I think they both love being in the news, being the subject of all of this, and so I think he'll do whatever he needs to do to keep it in the news as long as possible. So if that's admitting to it,
because he's always been a nobody.
Not, I don't know.
Yep, he's always been a nobody, and now he feels like a somebody.
Exactly.
It's really pitiful.
Exactly. And BTK right now is just loving that he gets brought up every time a new serial killer gets caught. It's like he's associating himself being like the Rex Heuermann guy, and so he just soaks it up, and so I could see Bryan being the same way. Anyway,
well, I appreciate you calling
in.
in.
Good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad you called in. There's just so much. There's so much, and I think that he had just resentment. I think he had a lot of rejection. And I mean, imagine going to work as a 16-year-old and your boss, like all these teenagers are mingling with the customers, and your boss says, dude, you gotta stay in the back. You can't be talking to people.
He also I also think that he has a malformed or a deformed amygdala because he even said in his teenage years that he had no feeling. He can't feel, that he doesn't have feelings for other people or for his family. Remember?
Yeah, he felt like a sack of meat or something.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like he was disassociated from himself big time.
Yeah.
And then, maybe he did the heroin because he didn't feel so normal. And then he thought, a lot of people try to self-medicate. It's either alcohol or drugs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I have a family member who did not know they were bipolar, and they were heavy drinkers. And then they got help after many years, and they were diagnosed bipolar and got on medication. And it was like a different person. So
that's what they needed. They needed something to move it out.
To even that out, and definitely the alcohol wasn't cutting it. So, I mean, maybe he thought that the heroin, maybe the weed just wasn't cutting it because he...
Well, I think he did the heroin to feel something. I seriously think that he doesn't, maybe the heroin gave him some sort of... If you don't really have feelings like that, then you don't get the euphoric feeling that you would get connecting to people, or... You know what I mean? If there's something wrong with that part of his brain, and so heroin probably makes you feel really good, which is something he wasn't able to do.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
I don't know.
I agree with you, Teresa. I do. I just think there's so many things we can discuss, and I don't think we, no one's right or wrong, but there's a lot out there to discuss.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot more there's just so much more that we don't know. I'm curious what his parents know, though.
Me too. Considering that he said he worked with his dad, it sounds to me like him and his dad were close. So maybe the dad.
And you don't think the mom did those Reddit posts? If his mom didn't do the Reddit.
I don't know. I have a hard time believing that a woman her age.
That hidden true crime. Lauren and Dr. John. They did a whole thing on her Reddit post because they were so bizarre. I mean, if it is her, they are really bizarre.
I don't think it's her. I think it's him playing games, because if like a woman her age would normally have Facebook, right? I mean, normal people
but you know what? My mother, you could see, my mother's 70 something, and she's like a Twitter fiend. I don't even do Twitter, and she does. And so
Reddit?
There's a possibility.
Would your mom go on Reddit?
I could see my mom doing Reddit.
Really?
Totally.
Maybe I'm wrong then.
I just think it depends.
But it just seems like if you're not, like if you're going to be on social media and you're going to be on Reddit, it seems like you'd have Facebook, you'd have Twitter. Like you're not just going to be on Reddit. I guess that's what bothers me about it.
It is sort of weird. It's something you have to hunt for and find conversations that aren't so readily.
And you're going to just go on Reddit and talk about your 22-year-old son that you're so proud of. And even though...
Yeah, it is bizarre. It is weird. But I think that I could see it being in the sense that it's more of an anonymous thing. Whereas on Facebook, you've got all your friends and family and everybody else who's going to be seeing what you post. And if she just wanted to sort of lament to the world without them saying, don't be ridiculous, who knows?
Maybe.
But
it just seems like a weird site just to jump on, to only be on Reddit.
It is weird. And it's for a younger generation. It's definitely not her generation, I would say.
Yeah, it's really hard to navigate and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be. It could be. I mean, anything's possible. I just feel like she would be on other platforms if she's on Reddit. That's all.
Well, I just hope that whatever happens, that we find out what's going on with that family, because there is, whatever it is, there's something going on.
Yeah, they went in front of the grand jury, so something definitely.
Yeah, that is too weird.
Yeah.
That is way too weird. But
you know, if even
okay,
if that
okay,
I'll let you go. Thanks for calling in.
Oh.
I'm just
It was
used
good
to
to talk to you.
yapping.
I'll call you again.
Okay. Bye, Teresa.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Anybody want to call in? The lines are open. Yeah, it's just crazy. I know that a lot of people are on Reddit. I'm just saying, like, she's only on Reddit. Like, she's not on anything. It just seems odd. Ooh, excuse me. Does anybody else want to call in? So we talked a lot about the Bundy thing and the coincidences or the similarities, and it's just, I don't know, it bothers me. And then Kaylee's dad, you know, he thought that Bryan was motivated by jealousy. Have you guys heard of Factor X? Lisa, we're not entirely sure what they went in front of the grand jury for. We were told it was about Dana Smithers. Then we were told that he's not connected to that, so we don't really know what it was for. But I was reading about BTK. We talked a lot about Bundy tonight. And if anybody wants to call in, the number's up. You guys can call in. But it says, what is Factor X that BTK blamed for his urge to kill? I've never heard of this Factor X, but I've never studied him. Okay, so Rader blames his urge to kill on something he calls Factor X.
Call from
Sabrina.
Hey, Sabrina, you're live. What's up?
Hey, Jay.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So, there's a couple things that I just was thinking about. I listen to you all the time.
Well, thank you for that.
And yeah, I'm kind of nervous.
Don't be
I'm
nervous.
before, but
You're good. Don't be nervous.
But, so there's like you were talking about the like the AC.
Mm-hmm.
So he works with his dad. And I was thinking, they have fake cameras. I mean, they have everything online, and it will look like anything. It can look like a hook that you hook on the bathroom, like door in a public restroom.
Mm-hmm.
And it has 2 holes in it. I mean, they have some that are fake thermostats. So, I mean, he could have, put that in the house if he was there, I think. And then even had it up on like the dark web, because there's so many people that have these crazy things on there.
Yeah. Were they just like voyeur, like watch people?
Yeah. So
so
there's
creepy.
one guy, it's called a haunted house, but no, it's like a torturing house. It's McCaney Manor. But like, and this is kind of off the subject, but this is what I was thinking about.
Yeah, tell
so
me.
with McCaney Manor, they torture these people. I mean, and it's like a 40-page waiver that you have to sign, and it says if they cause death to you, then they're not liable. But they beat people, they pull their teeth, they cut their hair. If you Google it on YouTube, there's a lot of documentaries on it.
Really?
And I don't see how it. Yes, it's called McCaney Manor.
That's
creepy. And the only way to get into it, and if you last I think if you last like 10 hours, you get like $10,000. And the only thing you have to do is donate a bag of dog food. But that's it. And everybody says, they think that he's putting it on the dark web because torturing people, like there's sick people out there,
for sure.
And yeah, and so I mean, to even just watch people, it kind of reminded me thinking of like a Truman Show type of way, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or if he even watched it himself. Because if he's that way and he's uncomfortable or the way that he thought, I just.
Well, Sabrina, remember he wanted his lawyers to go get his TV, his smart TV out of his apartment?
Yeah.
Could he have been?
Yeah, and he could have been connected.
Yeah, I mean, if he had cameras, like he's not going to want to watch it on his phone at home. Like that's too small. Like you're going to want to put it on the big screen.
Right, like eat dinner. I could just like picture him like sitting on the couch with, you know, like a table in front of him, eating dinner, just watching her like untie her shoes or something. Because that's just the way that he probably is.
Yep, I could picture the same thing.
And he does remind me, as soon as I saw him, I said Ted Bundy, because he looks so much like Ted Bundy too. And when you did the side-by-side comparison, I was showing my mom, because we listened to you and stuff, and but she was just, you know, she was like, oh my goodness, and she was like, he does, and I said, yeah. And then I told her today, there's just so much, but I told her today, I said, you know, it's crazy because we listened to your podcast that I think, what's his name, Josco?
Yeah,
that
Josco.
Person that called. Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, how is that spelled?
The Josco?
Because,
okay, so it's Josco, 1972.
Okay, and so this is kind of crazy, but Moscow. So if somebody wants to have something associated with it, I mean, that's just changing one letter, right? And taking off the silent letter at the end. Josco, Moscow.
I didn't even think of that.
So so I was thinking, you know, he changes the first letter, but the W is silent in Moscow. So, you know, he still has a tie to it. And you see what I'm saying?
What's 1972, I wonder?
I don't know. I mean, I wonder if it could be, I know something happened, and it was another girl, Lana from, I forgot.
You're okay.
But
You're good. I know who you're talking about.
Okay. But she said there was, the past always repeats itself, and which it does. I mean, it always does. And something happened back then to where they took the land from this guy that owned it for one of the parks over there. And so he wouldn't sell his land. He was like, no, this is my land. So I think they ended up trying to frame him or kill him to take the land. And something happened, but I don't know. I don't think it was 1972. I mean, it could be maybe the year his mom or dad was born. I mean, it could be something that happened, or maybe BTK, something that his killings, you know, one of those years.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what that could stand for, because I was born in 73, and I think his dad graduated in 76. But who knows?
Okay.
I mean, something could have happened. But Josco, 1972, if you Google that, there's actually a company called Josco, and it was established in 1972. It's weird. But it's nothing, it's just household shit. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. What about the company name of the dad?
Yeah.
The HVAC company? I don't know what that was called.
Yeah, I don't know.
But,
I mean, that was the first that I heard that he even worked with his dad, because I heard his dad worked at Pleasant Valley Schools. So that was something new for me. Like, what do you mean you worked with your dad? Maybe side jobs. Maybe his dad did side jobs by word of mouth in their area or something.
Right. That's, and that's what I was thinking. Or was that maybe the year his dad opened his company? I mean, I just think about all kinds of things. I don't think he did it alone.
You don't?
I don't. Oh, no. No. And the reason why I think this is because I've watched some stuff on, Emma Bailey and The Boyfriend and things like that, but and how supposedly that house was a drug house. I'm thinking is that maybe he, and I'm watching from Oklahoma, but I'm thinking from that maybe he was in debt, or they were coming to collect and he didn't have the money. He just got fired, and they were like, all right. And then whenever on the video where, Kaylee tells Maddie, like, what did you tell him? And she said, I told him everything. And maybe they were like, hey, well, since this is a way to pay me back, if, you know, or to get a hit, you know? Like,
I just don't think there's
some people will kill for drugs.
I just don't think they do, but I just don't think there's any evidence of that. That's why I just don't go down that road, just because I mean, we know Emma Bailey knew them. I mean, everybody seems like knows everybody around there, and you know, it's Moscow. It doesn't seem like it's very big, so all those kids would know each other or run in the same crowds, possibly. You know, see each other at parties, bars, work, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And were any of the people that were in the house, or maybe friends, were they maybe in his class? I mean,
Could
some
be.
people maybe, you know, sick and twisted, and they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to ask the teacher since he's all into this, and the way he looks, he's just kind of creepy looking in a way, you know, kind of gives me the creeps, but
well, everybody
everybody
said he had a dead stare. I mean, a lot of people that have talked about him said that they won't forget his stare. I mean, that to me is something remarkable, that if you remember that about somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's...
But I do think it's possible he did it by himself. I don't think anybody helped him. And if they did, then they would have had to have rolled on him, because why aren't they arrested?
Yeah, but there's three, if I'm not mistaken, there's three, you know, what's it called, blood evidence that they haven't found the people that it belongs to in that house.
Oh, I don't know about
There's
that.
three unidentified, yeah.
There's
And
three what?
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, there's male DNA. Yeah, there's other male DNA.
Yeah.
Of course. Ethan's definitely would be there, right? Because he was there.
Yeah, but no, unidentified, as in, like, they can't find the person that left it there. But even after all those stabbings, he would have to have, like, you know, got some kind of blood. I mean, how many that have stabbed people, and with the way that, you know, you stab somebody, there's blood everywhere, it's slippery, you know? And I talk fast, but
well, I mean,
I have so much.
It wouldn't be slippery though, because there was carpet and they were on beds. So like upstairs, that I think that's why it was so contained, because they both were on the bed. So the blood is going to soak into the mattress. It's gross to think about, but the mattress is going to soak up the majority of that blood. The only place we saw blood was leaking out, right? And we know that Xana's bed was up against that wall. So.
And that's another thing. I was, you know, my mom, she was saying, you know, well, what about this blood? And I was like, well, unless she kind of ran to maybe get out of a window, but there's no window there. And I was like, maybe she jumped on the bed. But then they said that she was fighting for her life, you know?
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling that Maddie was targeted first, and that possibly Kaylee heard something going on and went to check, and maybe kept Murphy in the bedroom so that he didn't run downstairs and she didn't have to go down and get him. You know, kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, shut the door, leave the dog in the room, and then go see what is going on. And she walked into him doing whatever to Maddie, and then started fighting him. And it could have been her injuries were worse, like her dad said, because she interrupted what he was doing, and he was angry with her.
Yeah. And did you see, I was on one of your videos where they were, I think it was at the memorial or the funeral, where the mom was talking, and then she gave the ex-boyfriend, Maddie, or Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, a hug, and the way he turned, or he was looking at the dad.
Yeah.
That was creepy.
I just watched that again today. And you know what? I got a different feeling today. At first, I was like, oh, my God, Dad suspects him. But then I watched it today, and I was like, wait a minute. Was that for the perpetrator's benefit? Did they want the perp to think that they were looking at Jack D so that he would let his guard down?
Oh.
You know, to make it look like, okay, we're doing this thing, because we know that the Gonsalves waited until the end of December, or until December 7th, to have the memorial for Kaylee and Maddie. So this vigil, this was just a vigil thing, right? And then they have this eye lock between him and Jack, where they lock eyes, and then Steve just kind of turns his head like, I'm out of here. And Mom embraces Jack. I think that might have been because they know the killer watches these vigils, might even attend them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if
Exactly,
the killer's
yeah.
standing there and they go, oh, look, there's a rift between boyfriend and dad. They're looking at boyfriend.
The way I took it, whenever he looked up at the dad, he was like, I wonder if I'm, to me, it kind of seemed like, am I kind of playing this off good? But I watched a lot of stuff, true crime and just cases. I'm always thinking that way.
Yeah.
I always think
and I think
I pay
too,
attention to detail.
I think too that, the Gonsalves did things that possibly were helping the investigation without saying that. Because there were just things that were put out there that I don't know. I just think that a lot of it was part frustration of wanting, this guy to get caught because they were sick of playing a game with the media.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and I agree. And I think that, and people tell me I'm crazy, but sometimes, I mean, even there's cops that they'll just put stuff out there. It's happened before. But I mean, with only one, I mean, they only had one, little speck of evidence. I mean, that's kind of hard. But then with the other stuff, but sometimes the police will false accuse somebody until they can actually buy them time to maybe find somebody else, But I really don't think he was the only one that did it. I think he had help.
Who do you think it was, though? I mean, because you have to have, there has to be, you have to have evidence pointing to someone for you to think that there was someone else there, right? So who would have helped this guy that has no friends? He knows nobody. He's only been there a couple months, and he's already got girls he's creeping out, and he's getting talked to by his superior. So who would help this guy? I mean, you got to be realistic and look at him. I'm not trying to judge him, but if you look at him and then you find out that he was very socially awkward and stuff, who's going to help him do something so heinous? Not many people want to do something that heinous.
Depending on if it's drug related. I mean, that's really what I think. But I have a feeling that, he didn't do it alone. I mean, he could have, because he did study in it and everything. With just that little bit of evidence and then the unknown, blood or the three unknown at the house, and then without, I just think it has to do with drugs.
I just don't know why everybody is discounting the DNA on the sheet, though. Where is that coming from? Because we used to think, oh my gosh, there's DNA. They got their guy, right? Now everybody's, it was planted because he's putting out emotions. He's alluding to the fact that he's been set up, that he's been framed, that someone planted that there. All these agencies are not going to band together to set up Bryan Kohberger, who's a nobody.
Right.
I mean, I hate to say that, it's mean, but damn, he's a nobody. Ain't nobody wanting to set him up. For what?
That's true.
For what?
I mean, and with the car, I'm on the fence. I really am, because with his car and then the video that was sent out, I'm like, is that his car? And then comparing the car to,
but you got to remember that wasn't put out for our benefit. That was put out for the perpetrator's benefit, in my opinion.
Oh,
I just think,
I
think when you have an active investigation, you got to think they're not interested in updating us, right? They really don't care what we know and if we have all the facts. It doesn't, because when you're investigating, you're trying to figure out who just killed these four innocent people, right? And you've got their parents going, you better catch this motherfucker. You're not worried about what the public knows and doesn't know. We're not worried about the public might be upset if we don't tell them everything. No. They're going to put things out there to either A, make the perpetrator think they're not on his tail, so he makes a move, and then they can possibly get more evidence against him. Because if he did it, he's going to be watching and minding his P's and Q's, right? He's not going to leave a straw behind with his DNA on it. He's not going to leave a can behind with his DNA on it, because he knows what he did, right? So I just feel like, I don't even know what I was saying. I forgot my train of thought, but I just feel like
about the news.
Yeah, I just feel like that we have to keep in mind that things that are put out there are put out as part of an investigation.
Yeah.
Pamela, he's good. Thank you for asking. But yeah, I think that those things are put out there possibly. Like, he could see that and be like, oh, well, my car doesn't, isn't that year, so they're not on my tail. Yeah. There's a million white Elantras around there. So that might have made him feel a little comforted that, oh, these cops are stupid like I thought they were. They are small town podunk cops. I did outsmart them.
See, you made me see that. You made me see both sides of it.
Well, I know, and you have to. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to look at it from that whole perspective, like from an investigative standpoint. What are they going to do in order to make someone that they suspect make a move? But they don't have enough to arrest him yet. Because once they arrest him, they're not just going to arrest him for burglary. Because he'll bond out, right? He'll post bond. They have to have everything. And that's why it took so much time.
I was listening to with Eddie, and even with his alibi, I mean, if, like you said, if he could prove he was somewhere else,
who the hell's going to sit there?
They would look at that.
Dude, have you seen the people that are sitting in the Latah County Jail? Have you looked at that roster? Would you want to sit there with those motherfuckers? They're all they're all on drugs mainly. Okay, and who in the hell wants to sit in a jail where there's a bunch of heroin and meth addicts that are what do you call it? Detoxing?
But did you know that I actually had a friend that works in a prison, or have a friend that works in a prison. He said that that's one place where you can get anything you want, and it is not easy. It's not hard to get drugs through prisons. I mean, he showed me a picture where
in prisons,
they had to go out there and stuff.
Sure. For sure. I don't know how the hell they get them in there, but they do. But this is the county Latah jail. So it's in the courthouse, actually. It's actually in the same building as the court.
Oh.
Yeah, it's little town stuff.
I was thinking, oh, that's true. Okay, I didn't even know that. I thought he was like in a bigger jail.
He's
They're
in
talking about having by himself.
I'm sure they do. But, I mean, you hear people, and if people are sick in there, withdrawing from meth and heroin, they're sick, they're hollering out. That's not a place you want to sit. If you have something that you can prove you were somewhere else when this happened, you would not sit there. Yeah. I guarantee it. And
that's
that is
so
like,
true.
It defies logic, right? Because like the first thing he said was that he couldn't wait to get back to Idaho to be exonerated. Well, that didn't happen. Then he said he has an alibi. And then the date came up where he had to produce his alibi. And he said, wait, I need more time because it takes a lot of time to investigate alibis. So,
I would be screaming from the rooftop.
Well, then he had more time.
I'd be like, here's this, here's that.
Right. Well, he had more time. And then he said his response is, it'll come out in court. So that tells me it's bullshit.
You think he's going to plead the fifth?
I don't know.
Honestly?
I don't know. I can't even begin to predict what will happen with this because it's crazy.
This case is unbelievably
every day
crazy.
There's new motions. It's like, what's going on now? And then the latest one, he's citing law from 1609. 1609.
Oh my goodness.
He's citing law from 1609. What?
Does he ride his horse there too? Jesus.
It just seems like he's behind a lot of these motions, and I think that Ann Taylor has to file them within reason because then he can say he didn't get appropriate counsel. She didn't, she didn't listen to me. She didn't fight for me. I wanted her to do this. I wanted her to go this route, and she didn't. And that's what
because
Bundy
he knows the whole process.
Absolutely, he does. And Bundy also did that. He wanted to get rid of his lawyer. My lawyer's not, representing me. But I've got another call coming in, Sabrina, and I want to thank you so much for calling. And you did great, and I hope you call in again.
Okay,
all right.
I sure will.
Bye, hon.
You have a good day.
Call from.
Hello, you are live on air with Jay is for Justice.
Hello, Jay. This is Justine.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I have a statement more than anything, and it has to do with the touch DNA or the genetic DNA.
Okay.
C.C. Moore.
Yep.
Is the pioneer of this, and it was so important to me. I went looking it up and everything, and I have tried to tell people, if you really care about this case, if you really want to know, listen to this woman, and it'll help you understand how come this is a really, really great tool. The drunk turkey, they had that forensic criminal death investigator.
I didn't see that, but go ahead. Tell me about it.
She did a fantastic. I mean, she's down to earth, puts it in layman terms where you can really understand it. And it was great because she explained a lot about the blood spatter.
Yeah.
Or lack, because one of my biggest things was, why is there no blood trail?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Okay. So I had to go dig it up. I listened to her. I listened to C.C. Moore. I've listened to everything you put out just about.
Well, I appreciate that.
I listen to the ones I know have got good insight and good facts. But I don't know how to get people to listen to C.C. Moore. Listen to the death investigator. Everybody came out, when this case came out, they said, oh, it's a slam dunk. They've got so much evidence. Now it's like, he's not guilty, they're framing him. He couldn't have done this by himself. They don't have any evidence. It's still the same case.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know what the cops have. Well, we can look and understand some of what they have.
Absolutely. And that's all we have to go on, really, is we can read between the lines, right? We can see that these search warrants are sealed, but we can guess.
Some of us have common sense.
Right. You have to put your logical thinking cap on and look at everything. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that his mom was on Reddit? I want to ask your opinion on that. Do you think his mom was posting on Reddit about Bryan and how successful he is and how he's her baby?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. I think there's a lot more going on in that household.
Yeah.
But that's, how many closed doors do you look behind? There's usually something weird going on in that house there, or that one down the street, or over across town. I mean, this is America. We got a lot of weird people.
So, yeah, absolutely. And I'm finding out we have a really lot of weird people. With every story that I cover, I find that out.
Well, when you've been in nursing a long time, you find it out real quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Oh, are you a nurse?
I'm a retired nurse,
Well,
yes.
Thank you so much for being a nurse.
I didn't say I was a great nurse. I could have been a horrible nurse.
Well, you still were a nurse, though. That's a lot more than I could do.
I was a nurse since 1977.
Wow.
But do you know why cops and nurses always get along?
Why?
They understand the same jokes.
Cops and nurses?
They understand the same jokes.
What do you mean?
They got a weird sense of humor.
Oh. Well, I guess you'd have to. You do. Well, thank you for calling. I appreciate you calling in and appreciate your listening.
Well, I love it here. Love all the guys. Tell everybody hi.
Yes. Bye. I love these Southern accents calling in too. Love it. So, hey, I wanted to talk to you guys about something else that I found. Remember when I showed you guys that picture of what I thought was Bryan Kohberger sitting in the main corridor, whatever, of UI? Chelsea saw him really early in the semester at the University of Idaho in the food court of the student union drinking water. He sat by himself. He was the type to stare, she said. He wouldn't look away if you caught him staring, like he wanted you to notice.
Call from
Pat Gordon.
Hey, Pat, you are live. What's going on?
What's going on, Jay?
Hey.
Hey, I'm going to bring up something new. I need you to look this up.
Okay.
Look up Idaho 4, evidence marker number 4.
Evidence marker number 4. Okay.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, it's something outside, and it looks like the sleeve that goes on a Hot Pocket when you put it in the microwave?
Yes. Like the little paper thing?
Yes. That's what it looks like to me.
Oh, I've got it right here. Let me pull it up on the screen so everybody can see what you're talking about. I've never noticed this. Damn sure it does have a marker 4 next to it.
Okay, you see that little brown-looking speck on that thing?
Hold on, let me get it up on the screen and make it big. Ooh, yeah, I do.
Now, look up what dried blood looks like.
Oh, shit, Pat. All right, hold up. Let me get this up first. Okay, guys, can you see that? Let me make it big.
I can't see it on my TV.
You will in a second. There's a delay.
Oh, okay.
So I see what you're talking about. That it's like a, yeah.
People were thinking on another podcast that was a leaf or something. That's not.
It did
that
kind of
dried.
look like a leaf to me too, just because there's leaves there. But why are they picking it up, and why did they mark that with evidence?
Yeah. I can guarantee you that's dried blood. If you look up what dried blood looks like and look at this, it's the same color. It does pretty much the same stuff, because I live in Texas and I hunt, so.
So you know what it looks like.
Yes, I know exactly what it looks like.
Okay, so you should be able to see it up on your screen now.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay,
now.
so do you think that bigger spot is the only spot that's dried blood, or do you think it's all over that?
Well, it could be. I mean, it could be. He could have been. I'm pretty sure he was probably moving pretty fast getting out of the house. And I don't know if it was where it was. It could be his blood. I don't know whose it is.
There's writing on this, Pat.
Yes. Yeah, people were saying they thought it was a map, but I looked at that thing, and it looks like one of them sleeves to, like, put a Hot Pocket in. Because you can see the left side, it's got little holes on each end, and then it's got the flap that goes around it. And then it slides in on the right end. I think that's what that is.
So did he?
But
it does look like somebody wrote on it, though. But I can't
They
make
did.
out what it is. Could you make out
somebody
the
was
writing?
saying they were saying it was a piece of paper with a map on it. I don't think
it's just paper. You're right. I think it's something like more cardboardy because it's
Yeah.
more standing up.
Right. But why would they be picking that up and taking a picture of it?
And putting an evidence marker. Yeah.
Right.
There's something
and there's
to
also
that.
another picture where they put it in a bag.
Interesting. Now I'm going to be looking at this.
If he cut himself, that might be his blood.
Right. It could be.
Yeah. So
very interesting stuff. Thanks for bringing this up to me. Now I'm going to be analyzing this picture.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure. And like I said, you can look up, images of what dried blood looks like. And I'm telling you that it's the same exact color and everything.
I believe you. I thought it was something that was just in, that got dirty. But this is actually on the road, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know where it's at exactly. It might be behind the house. I'm not sure.
It looks like it's on that parking pad behind there.
It looks like it's rocks. That I can't really tell. To me, I don't know if it's in the parking lot behind the apartments or what. I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, you can't really tell.
You know, I wish we knew, but it's going to come out in court. I almost guarantee it that's going to be some of the evidence that comes out.
Yeah, good find.
So, and also, you know, it's been debunked. Them kids, you know, they might have smoked some weed or whatever every once in a while, but it was not a drug house.
Yeah. I don't,
you know,
yeah. There's no evidence of drugs or them selling drugs or anything of that matter. I agree with you.
Right. There's no deal in that, you know. I just, you know, people need to get off that conspiracy stuff. This is plain and simple. This is an evil person that was probably rejected and everything else, you know, and he hit rock bottom and jealousy took over and then rage.
I agree. He was at the point of desperation, losing his job. I mean, what was he going to tell his parents? He had finally, you know, was successful, and his dad's like, yeah, he's a PhD student, you know, telling that cop, like, proud of him.
Yeah, they were proud of him, you know.
And then, and that.
You know, I've seen a bunch of them. I worked for the state of Texas for a while, and in administrative segregation. So I've seen some pretty rough ones. But yeah, he fits the bill, you know.
He sure does. He sure does. And you know, everything that I'm learning about him, it just all kind of, you know, it's like pieces of a puzzle fitting together.
Yeah.
With him.
Right. Yeah, you know, when it first happened, when I first seen it, I thought the ex-boyfriend had to have done this, you know.
Yes.
And I was stuck on that for a little while, but you know, as it went along, I thought, no, you know.
I still see people saying it's him, and I'm actually working on a video about Jack D, and I'm putting together all of the statements that came out from the Gonsalves family about Jack. And you know, we heard when I had Drunk Turkey on, he talked to Christy Gonsalves, and she told him that Jack D was interrogated extensively.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm sure all of them was.
Hell
the girls
yeah.
too.
I guess when he walked up to the house because he heard something was going on, he was immediately put in the car and taken down to the station and questioned. That he wasn't just roaming around. You know what I mean? So for people to think that they didn't thoroughly investigate anyone else and just pinned it on Bryan Kohberger is just stupid.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. He's a nobody.
He is. That's what I'm saying. Like, who would want to frame this guy? No one even knew him. No one cared who he was. Like, he didn't have any friends. He didn't.
Nope.
He had a hard time even talking to people. He got fired. No one from his classes liked him. And then he got shit canned. So who in the hell is going to help him kill 4 beautiful students that had, you know, everything going for them? He hated them for that. They were everything he wasn't.
I agree.
And, you know, I got to tell you, Pat, my husband thinks that there is a possibility that Bethany had something going on with Kohberger. And I just can't.
No way.
I cannot.
No way.
There's no way any of those girls would have ever dated him. I can't go there.
Yeah, I can't either. You know, another thing that gets me is Kaylee's mama said that they seen her get home at 1:56.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking the house across the street has a camera of some sort. Directly across the street from their house.
Yeah, those apartments.
Yeah. And
I think there's a lot of cameras, yeah.
Oh, there is.
Well, I think they also knew the guy that drove them home, too. I think the guy that drove them home, his name's Eric Gower, I think. He works for UI. So maybe he volunteered.
Yeah, they said he was a freshman.
No,
he was a freshman.
Oh, really? I heard it was.
Yeah, I watched the Dateline thing earlier, and they also said on Dateline that his Wi-Fi had connected to the kid's house.
Yes.
At one time.
Yes. Steve Gonsalves said.
I thought I dreamed that, but
no,
it's
Steve
not.
Gonsalves said it too. I just downloaded that clip today when I was looking at for the Jack D stuff. Steve said that he was close enough to their house to touch their Wi-Fi. That was his word. So I'm assuming his phone somehow scanned, you know how it says join this network? That their network popped up for him to join. And I just don't know about this other story about the cameras with the other girl and the Wi-Fi he set up for her. He knew her Wi-Fi password and set up those cameras.
Right. Well, if the burglary charges were against him on that, it would be in Washington State.
That's true. That's true.
So the burglary is the first thing when he broke in to King Road.
Yeah.
They charged him with that, and then of course they charged him with 4 murders. Then there was a rumor that Xana was pregnant. If that was the case, there would be 5 murders.
Oh my God, I cannot.
You know, so
I can't with people adding to make it word like it's not bad enough. You know, like it's not bad enough that these kids were murdered. We've got to add that Xana was pregnant into the rumor mill.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it's just so gross what goes on.
It's a mess, but
it is.
I mean, because this is going to be way more simpler than everybody thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and Ann Taylor's doing her job. You know,
she is.
Even though she's pulling stuff from the 1600s, you know, that's not going to fly.
Right, 1609.
You know? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But I think she's doing
crazy.
Everything that she has to do to make sure that he can't say he didn't get appropriate counsel.
Yeah, I think, you know, she knows he did it, and she's just trying to do the best job she can so it'll just go on by. I wouldn't be surprised if they do go to trial in October. Yeah, I would not be surprised.
How can they, though, when they say they haven't even gotten all the evidence back from all of the different,
They got enough.
Amen, Pat. Amen, Pat. I'm with you. I am with you. And I appreciate your logic and your logical reasoning when it comes to this case, because it's very, very few and far between.
Well, thank you. I've been studying it, and you know, I'm pretty much on the same page with you. You know, like I said, at first, you know, I thought the boyfriend, but no, this guy did it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say alleged or anything else. This guy did it.
Do you think he's killed before, Pat? Just what's your feeling on that? I know we really don't have any evidence of that.
Maybe animals. Maybe. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think it was any person or anything like that.
Why do you think his parents testified in front of a grand jury in the Dana Smithers?
I think it had to do with that. I think it had to do with that woman, but I've seen somewhere where the mama said he was at home asleep.
So you think that they did that to rule him out, like to get his parents to say where he was that day?
It's possible.
I mean, how could they remember where he was over a year ago?
They can. I used to sneak out my window.
Right.
You know.
Right. They may
my
not
mom
have known.
didn't know when I was at home.
He seems like he'd be the type to pull the wool over his parents' eyes too, being the baby of the family. You know, everything comes difficult for Bri. He always, you know, he's the heavy kid. He gets teased, then he loses the weight, and he still can't make friends. You know, I'm sure as a mom, you'd feel sorry for your kid. You really would.
Yeah.
You really would.
Yeah. I used to tell my mom, you know, what I used to do later on. And she said, I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to know. Yeah. If I didn't know then, I don't need to know now.
Right. Because I was an outlaw. I was the baby of the family. So.
I was too. Babies unite. We got away with everything, didn't we? Brats.
Oh, God.
We're known as the family brats.
Well, I'm the black sheep.
Well, join the club, Pat. Join the club. You're in the right spot.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to thank you for calling in and bringing that evidence to my attention. I'm going to look at that closer and Like you said, look up dried blood, and I know that I heard too that when blood like hits air, it thickens. So it's not like
it does.
It's not like it's runny. It dries and thickens pretty quick.
Right. Well, like I said, I've cleaned enough deer in my life to know. So
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your insight, and that is definitely something that we're gonna look into. So find out if we can find any other evidence markers laying around in those pictures.
I hear you.
Yeah. All right, Pat.
If you mark my word, that's gonna come up.
All right, we're gonna mark your word right now, Pat. Evidence marker number 4.
Right.
Wait for trial.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, Pat. Talk to you soon.
You bet.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Awesome caller. Much love to Pat. Everybody give Pat some love and give Sabrina some love. She was nervous, but she did great. She did great. Dr. Malmo says she blew up the picture. It's not blood. It is a leaf. But what is written on there is the question. There's a reason they're picking that up. If it's not blood, there's a reason they picked that up. Anybody else want to call in before we wrap up our live today? This is a great live, by the way. There are letters on it that are either MRA or MAD. Maybe Maddie? Do you see Maddie on there? Because I don't think I can do it on here. See it that clear. I love looking at stuff like this. We need to do a live and look at the evidence pictures again. But that's about as good as I can get it. Let me see if I can get anybody else want to call in. 727-755-6001. We'd love to hear your thoughts. That does look like a broken leaf. I love Pat, but it does look like a broken leaf to me. It looks really edgy. But there's definitely writing on that, which might be something from one of their cars. Who knows? Maybe he was leaving notes for Maddie. Oh, Andy, let me check my email. Thank you. All right, let's put up a poll. I want to see. Making a nice poll. Do you think Bryan Kohberger is the only suspect? Answer yes or no. I'm going to check my email from Andy. Let's see what she sent over. You guys are great. I love how everybody is. Hold on. Got to get into the team email. Here we go. I didn't get an email from you. I don't have any pictures. But did you guys see that Ryan Upchurch is being sued by Kylie Rodney's family? Holy shit, we're going to have to go over that. I don't have any pictures from anybody, though. Unless it's from before. I don't see anything, Andy. Potato. Hello, stranger. Don't put up a poll. My wife might dance. Oh, my God. You texted me a picture? Okay, hold on. Okay, let's pull this picture up. All right, this is courtesy of Dr. Malmo. Oh, yeah, it does look like a leaf. Hold on. Might be right here. I can't make out anything on this thing, but you guys might be able to. Ah, where'd it go? You guys still think that's blood? I definitely can't make out the writing, but what do you guys think that is? If they're going to sue Ryan, they better sue the rest of us that thought something nefarious was going on. If he wasn't a millionaire, they wouldn't be doing it, in my opinion. Happy birthday to Potato's little mini spud. This is for the mini spud.
Go, shorty, it's your birthday.
Happy birthday, little spudster. All right, now we're going to pull up a picture of dried blood. You say it's your birthday. I hope she had a great B-day. Dried blood on white paper. Let's see. Dried blood spatters. Hold on, I'm looking for a good picture. Okay, here's one. I think it's a leaf. I really think it's a leaf, guys. Is there tire tracks on it? Maybe, Jenny says. Could be. Definitely. He could have run it over, and that's where they were getting tire tracks from. That's a good one. That's a good thought. Y'all are so smart. Oh my gosh, I can't even find my camera. I have so many windows open right now. I can't even find you guys. Hold on. I've got to close things. I've got to narrow it down. There we are. Oh, we're back. I feel like it's a leaf too. I think it's too edgy. But there could be something on it for sure. And anything that has an evidence marker next to it is definitely important. He says the leaf wouldn't stick to it. If it was run over, it might, though. If it was like wet and run over, and then it might have stuck to it. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. I'm enjoying this little convo. So let me show you guys something else we can discuss. This will leave you with some brain homework. Thinking caps. Give me 2 seconds to get it up. I think you guys will enjoy this. This is pretty interesting. And I know, I go back to Bundy. Y'all are going to hate me. But I want to show you something here. There's a lot of things that are crazy. So when Bundy was arrested, you guys, they read his probable cause affidavit and he stood there in no cuffs or anything like that. I agree with you, Pat. There's something on that. There's definitely something on there that they wanted. There's a couple crazy things that happened here that I wouldn't mind sharing. And I'm sure his sister was well liked. She's cute. She was in, she got a lead part in a play. Just seems like total opposite of Bryan. So you can go to Carol Durant. This is actually all public now. So I might be playing more of this in the future. You can watch all of this. This is Carol Durant. She's one that got away from Bundy. He actually kidnapped her and she escaped. And she has all of this up on her channel. But the part I wanted to show you guys, well, let's watch this first part of this. So this is going to be him being read his indictment. They have jury selection on here. Then he had his case moved from Tallahassee to Miami. He filed for a change of venue as well. They have defense opening statement. This is another thing that was crazy, guys. I've never seen an objection in an opening statement. Have you guys put a 1 in chat if you've ever seen lawyers object during an opening statement? Because I never have. And they get so many objections, you guys. We're going to have to do like a watch party night and watch parts of Ted Bundy's trial because it's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating to me anyways. And I know a lot of you think like me, so which is really scary. But I think you guys might find it fascinating as well. If you've never seen it. Let's end this poll. It looks like 64% of you think that Bryan Kohberger is the only suspect and 35% of you say no. Oh, wow, Faraday. That's crazy. Pat Gordon says no. Jamie says yes. Or Jammers. I don't know why I called you Jamie. Jamie Jammers. Okay. Let's get into the judge granted motion to suppress pantyhose evidence. Okay. So Neary, Anita Neary is the one that saw him. And then her mom also testified. So that would be equivalent to Dylan and then Dylan's mom testifying.
Pardon?
Now this is the girl that saw him after he murdered her sorority sisters.
The lady. Who's Mrs. Mary?
She's right across the hall.
Does she have photographs with her or clippings with
I
her?
don't know. You'll have to ask her. She might have them in her purse.
You want to let this young lady step down from the stand and bring her over? If they're of some benefit to us, if you can get them for us, Mr. Simpson.
All I was going to suggest is we've already given them copies of them. They can use the copies.
It's the weirdest thing to watch. Hold on. This is like this would be the equivalent of Dylan. And that's her mom. This poor girl had to sit there while Ted Bundy and his lawyers.
Just hired you on the interesting ones to show Mr. Bundy.
Yes,
Not concerned with the other details.
That's, look at, and this is his lawyer. That's his lawyer, the blonde. Ann Taylor 2.0.
Return all to the lady that you can. If we need to make photostats for them to the record, we'll give them. I don't want to confiscate it.
All these papers.
Yeah, the one I'm returning is Sunday, January 22nd, 1978, the Indianapolis Star, page 10, section 3. Caption on it is Tallahassee Terror, Police Lack Clues to Killing.
And all the same thing, all the media coverage being brought up. I know we can't just pop into that and understand it, but it's just crazy. And then he got a new lawyer. There was a delay in jury selection. I don't think there's any way they're going to have a trial in October. Can you imagine jury selection in Bryan Kohberger's case? All right, here's the defense opening statement. Let's play some of that. And you guys are going to crack up at how many objections. Okay, this is what we were talking about earlier about the jury. Of course, Okie, anytime. Here comes the jury. Check this out. Look at that. They just straight up show them all. Yeah, Bundy had a type too. His were brunettes. You're right. But look at the freaking jury.
Prior step of relation, polling is waived and presence is noted. You may proceed, gentlemen.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Mr. Bundy.
Wait till you see how close they are to the judge. We all survived the 70s serial killer. This is Bundy's lawyer.
It's good to see you back again.
This is Jay Logsden.
In this case, Mr. Simpson spent a great deal of time telling you about the crime that was committed. And it is here at the outset, in defining the issues, that I can talk to you about the true question in this case.
Night, Ange.
And the true question is not whether or not a crime was committed. Certainly there was a crime committed. No one disputes that the two young ladies were murdered in Tallahassee. No one disputes that the other two ladies were assaulted. No one disputes that the other lady was assaulted on Dunwoody Street. But there is a true issue in this case. Who committed these crimes? And that's what this jury has been impaneled to find. The issue is, did Ted Bundy commit this crime and no other man? The issue is, will the state prove that Ted Bundy and no other man committed this crime beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt?
Objection to the argument, Your Honor.
Objection.
Critical attitude was given to state on conclusion based on no objection, and I will give you the same, but don't argue.
Thank you.
Objection.
It's crazy.
I'm sure Mr. Simpson would agree that.
Objection.
Perhaps he does not.
This is bananas.
His Honor will instruct you that you are not to allow passion to come into this case.
I object.
We hope that the evidence in this case, because of the gruesome nature of the crime, will not cloud your reason. The issue, as I said, is what is the reliability of the identification? I'm going to
think of Bryan.
The state's, quote, best evidence here at the outset and tell you what I expect the evidence will show with respect to that. And their, quote, best evidence is Nita Neary.
That would be Bethany in this case.
Or alleged eyewitness to the intruder that was seen leaving the Chi Omega house on the early morning of January 15th.
That would be
Expect
Dylan.
that the evidence that the state will base most of their case on will be Ms. Neary's testimony. What I expect the evidence will show you in respect to that is that Ms. Neary came home at about 3 in the morning. She had been to what's called a keg party. She had been drinking beer that whole evening. She was tired. She was sleepy. She had a cold. And all of a sudden, she was surprised by seeing an intruder.
Now, doesn't that just make your stomach sick? Think of Dylan having to take the stand and to have things like this being said. They were out partying, they were drinking, they were smoking pot, whatever. They're going to try to poke holes in everything that she said.
At the time she saw the intruder, she paid no particular or attached no particular significance to it. She thought that it may have been one of the girls had smuggled one of her boyfriends in and he had stayed past curfew, or it could have been a burglar, or the first notion, she indicates, that she thought it was maybe Ronnie Ng, who was the houseboy in the Chi Omega house, and he had stayed past hours. And she wondered what was Ronnie Ng doing there at that late hour.
Well, first of all, what's a houseboy and why is he in a sorority house? But so here we had the eyewitness give another name and they're going to like hang on to that, right? Hang on to that name. And then she also said that she thought it was him. So did BK watch what they did? And did these boys wear knit hats and run through? Because we've seen like pictures of them in knit hats. So did BK choose the knit hat because he saw that they did and that they might mistake him for someone else? But this guy for sure reminds me of Owen, what's his name? Owen, that actor that's in the what is that? The Fockers? Meet the Fockers? I don't watch many movies. But he looks like Owen Wilson. Is that his name? Owen Wilson from Meet the Fockers.
When she saw the man leaving the door, she was standing in the subdued light of the early morning hours.
Listen to this part.
What has been called dim light. She was 16 and a half feet away from the man as he was leaving the door.
Dim light.
She was standing by.
Did you hear someone snort? Listen. But listen, dim light. Good vibes, anyone?
been called dim light. She was 16.5 feet away from the man as he was leaving the door. She was standing behind him at a slight angle, an angle that only gave her a partial profile.
Hear this?
What might be characterized as an oblique profile.
Oblique profile.
Just an angle shooting past his head, such as to give her the view that the intruder had a protruding nose, or a prominent nose, or a large nose. She saw this man.
She saw his beak.
For what has been called a fraction of a second. By her statement, 3 seconds at the most. And he was in a hurry. These fraction of a second, this glimpse, will become the most important seconds in this case. She will tell you that she saw the man carrying a log, what she thought to be a log, which later she thinks becomes a club. And she will admit that she saw the log for 2 seconds out of this 3 seconds. Most of her attention was what is called in expert testimony of Dr. Buckout, weapons focus. The evidence will show that when a person sees a man carrying a weapon,
thanks, Doc Terry,
the person tends to focus more on the weapon than on the facial features of the man carrying the club.
Objection! Again. This is where it gets kind of juicy.
You may say that you think it rather than reference to an individual.
Expect Ms. Neary will admit that most of this glimpse, these few fractions of a second, were directed to this log. The evidence will also show that she only was able to discern the man was dressed in a dark hat, dark jacket, and light pants. Which I expect the evidence will indicate to you that the reason she could not tell what color the man was wearing as far as clothing was because of the dim lighting.
Objection!
She will also admit that this intruder was constantly moving. His movement was flowing, it was fluid. And the first time she saw him was when he was at the door. The door opened easily. It was a freely hinged door that all these young co-eds were able to open without any difficulty. He turned the door, his back rotated, his body rotated, and he was through the door before her surprise even subsided.
Her surprise, listen, grows in shocked phase.
She will admit that there was no real facial perception, that she saw no expression on the man that would give her an emotional impression, to be able to have a more deeply emotional impression and observe and remember.
I object, Your Honor. You're arguing the case now.
He stood up. He's pissed. He's trying to protect that victim.
Expect that the evidence will show also that Ms. Neary had what might be called a subconscious expectancy to see.
I think you're commenting on evidence now. Even though you say it will show it, that's a conclusion.
Have you ever heard this many objections in an opening statement?
I expect the evidence will show that Ms. Neary thought she was seeing Ronnie Ng. Later, Ms. Neary identified another man, Ronnie Ng.
Sander, you read my mind.
She will tell you and admit that, quote, the similarities hit me between Mr. Ng and the intruder. She will admit that under hypnosis,
they hypnotized the witness.
Mr. Ng, quote, it could be the same man that she had seen as the intruder.
Or Jay Logston, Ed.
The expert testimony will show that later, Ms. Neary was placed under hypnosis, which is a state of heightened susceptibility to suggestion.
Teresa.
Where her attention is narrowed and concentrated, and it uses imagination. and it causes the suspension of what is called our critical judgment.
Objection, Your Honor.
Here's another one.
I'll let him argue that.
And that during this heightened state of susceptibility to suggestion under the hypnotist, she was given inappropriate suggestions by the hypnotist towards her memory, that there was a systematic pattern of punishment and reinforcement of her responses.
I will sustain that. You're arguing evidence now.
It's crazy.
And I expect the evidence will show that under hypnosis,
thank you,
her
Scarlett,
responses were incomplete because the hypnotist did not allow her to make complete responses.
Objection.
I will allow him to make that.
I expect that the evidence will show
the
because
jurors.
of this hypnotic state, the hypnotist added to her memory unobserved details from the original event, that he altered what she did observe, and that he altered her visual memory of the original event. I expect that the evidence will show that also during this hypnotic session, she experienced what are called positive hallucinations.
They said the witness.
And that she saw things that were not there in the original event.
I object, Your Honor.
That's Mr. Taggart, I think you get.
Yeah, Horton, I agree. It does. I showed it the other day.
I would ask the court to instruct the jury to disregard the comment.
Court already has.
You will have to examine, in determining the reliability issue in this case of Ms. Neary's
Look at the
observation,
chalkboard. I had one of those in my basement to play school when I was a little girl.
What her opportunity to observe was, and what her memory of that observation was.
Another. The judge said sustained.
I expect that the evidence will show you that her memory had been contaminated.
I'll let him say that.
This is nuts.
That she had seen newspaper photographs of Mr. Bundy.
That's going into the evidence.
That during these newspaper photographs, she had seen at least 6 photographs of Mr. Bundy where she had become familiar with his face, and it is only because of this becoming familiar with his face in the newspaper.
Objection. I'll sustain that.
All right.
Oops, sorry.
I expect the evidence will show that this newspaper familiarity caused her to make the identification.
Objection. I'll let him go into that.
Later with Captain Pottinger.
The mess.
I expect the evidence will also show that she saw a sort of a profile of Mr. Bundy in the newspaper, aside from these other 6 photographs, that her mother, Ms. Neary, showed her these things. I expect that the evidence will show that she was not able to say anything more about Mr. Bundy when she saw him in the photograph than he resembles the man. I expect the evidence will show that she told Detective Bodiford that she couldn't promise him anything
Detective
3
Payne.
times as to whether she would be able to identify Mr. Bundy. I expect that later the evidence will show the most hideous kind.
Objection. I'll sustain that.
Expect the evidence will show that Captain Pottinger later suggested an identification of Mr. Bundy to Miss Neary.
Objection.
Well, if that is some explanation of the evidence will show, I'll allow him to make it.
I expect that the evidence will show that he told Miss Neary that she was to look at the prime suspect. And even after he told her this, suggesting for her to make the identification of Mr. Bundy,
Objection.
that all Miss Neary...
Why does Mr. Haggard continue?
I assume he's starting on another sentence.
Yes, Your Honor.
If he gets back on that one, I'll take care of it.
I thought they were sandals.
And after this conversation between Ms. Neary and Captain Pottinger, the best Ms. Neary could say was, "He looks like, it fits closest." And I expect that you will see from the photograph that Captain Pottinger showed to Ms. Neary a subtle form of suggestion.
Objection.
I'll let him conclude that. Don't go into what it is.
All right. And I expect that you will see in the photograph that Mr. Bundy was the only man wearing dark clothing. And I expect the evidence will show that after Ms. Neary saw this photograph, she said about it, quote, "I don't know," referring to whether it was the man. Quote, "I don't know."
He thinks she was referring to.
Don't, I sustain it. Now, don't go into that. That's argument.
Don't go into that.
Within the confines, as you know.
And then later, Ms. Neary was taken to the courtroom in Tallahassee, where this case was first set for trial in October, and shown again Mr. Bundy, where he was the only man present in the courtroom, and she was asked to identify him there.
Objection.
Overruled.
And the best she could say then, after having seen him in the newspaper, having seen him in Mr. Pottinger's photograph.
Go back over the evidence you're arguing now.
Right. The best she could say when she was in the Tallahassee courtroom was that it, quote, "looked like the man."
Okay, it is what it is.
And I expect that the evidence will show, and she will have to admit, that she saw a, quote, "good right profile" of Mr. Bundy in that courtroom, and that she had an ample opportunity to observe him. And there was no positive identification there.
Objection.
And I expect that the evidence will show that last week Ms. Neary said about Mr. Bundy, again, only Mr. Bundy being present here in this courtroom.
Now, Mr. Haggard, I want to caution you before you say that all that was out of the presence of the jury.
Bye,
and
Cheryl.
If you open the door, I'm going to give the state some time to go into it. Go ahead, sir.
Ms. Neary has never been certain in her identification. And what you will find is that only her confidence grew after repeated and repeated suggestions.
Objection.
Sustained. That's argument now, Mr. Haggard. Bless your heart. I'm aboard now.
I expect that the evidence will show that she was asked time and time again to make an identification by the police. And I expect that the evidence will show that her confidence is not a measure of her accuracy of her original observation.
I'll let him say that. That's what he intended to show by the evidence.
I'll let him say that.
Now,
look at the jury just right there.
That is Ms. Neary's testimony.
Now, that's argument in and of itself, Mr. Haggard, isn't it?
Mr. Haggard.
Let me treat this so-called bite mark evidence. And I expect that the bottom line on this evidence is what we are going to show to you, and I remind you that we have no burden of proof, but notwithstanding that, we're going to show you that there are 4 or more other sets of teeth that match the same bruise marks.
See, we've got 4 other sets of teeth, and Bryan Kohberger
Okay.
has how many sets? 3 sets of DNA that he's saying there's no answer for?
That there are more teeth that could make the same bite mark.
Oh, it's crazy. This is bananas.
Bryan
There are many
Kohberger.
problems. There are many reasons. I expect that the evidence will reveal to you as to why Dr. Souvron's opinion has no reliability. First of all, it's common sense that
Now that's argument.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You and I know that. Go ahead.
I expect the evidence will show that the skin is not the best medium for retaining an impression. It's not like you're biting into an apple or something.
I'll let him say that.
I'll let him say that.
I expect that the state will not be able to show the dynamics of this alleged bite. I expect that they will not be able to show you what position the body was in at the time this bite was made, whether the leg was flexed, extended, how the skin was stretched, and this evidence will show that the elasticity of the skin is an extremely important issue in determining the dynamics of the bite. I expect that the evidence will show that there were two possible lower rings, meaning the lower jaw, that there were three possible upper rings, and that the two lower rings cannot be correlated with the three upper rings.
N.C. Taylor, the defense lawyer, bring it on, woman.
So there's no way to ascertain the leverage of the bite. I expect that the evidence will show that this was a bruise, and as a source of a bruise, the body bleeds and it diffuses, which gives nothing but gross characteristics, subjectively gross characteristics. Expect that the evidence will show that this opinion testimony stretches the farthest fantasies.
Objection. Sustain that now. That's argument.
I'm sorry.
Expect that the evidence will show that there is no generally accepted standards for bite mark comparison. That there's no agreement as to what is consistent or inconsistent, or what constitutes reasonable dental certainty or reasonable dental probability.
Look at his hair. It's all Kohberger curls.
Expect that the evidence will show that there's no convention in the dental profession
yes, this
as
is
what
Bundy's
constitutes
lawyer.
valid,
One of them.
sufficient number and substantial number of points of comparison and types, and how many are necessary to make a reliable identification. Or
there's Ann C.
what,
Taylor and Jay
what is the proper
Logston.
method to be used.
1970s version. No shit, right? Jay Logston.
I expect
Ann
the
C.
evidence
Taylor.
will show that there is an element of what may be called the
Bryan
Heisenberg
Kohberger.
principle of uncertainty that is operative
The
in this
TV
case.
frame, it does.
Isn't that argument, Mr. Taylor?
You're right. Hey,
I can't get
opinionated.
results this way. I'm going to ask you now.
Well, Your Honor, to me that's a definite concept.
All right. I'll be guided by what you say sometime.
His lawyer's still alive. Wow.
Thank you.
The Bundy
It
girl.
will come down to the bottom line, as I said to you at the beginning of my remarks on these teeth, that we are going to show you that there are 4 or more other sets of teeth that match the same bruise marks.
So we're going to hear
And
about the
that's as far
DNA
as
in
we
Bryan's
have to
case.
go, or need to go.
Now
And
that is
answers the
argument,
question.
Mr. Taggart.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. It's nuts. I need those glasses.
I expect that the evidence will show that this alleged hair cannot be characterized better than the 3 races unless there's some individual. I expect that the evidence will show that this alleged hair cannot be characterized better than the 3 races unless there's some individual characteristics, something peculiar like dyed hair, that there's must be certain morphological characteristics, and there will be doubt as to its reliability all the way down the line.
Objection.
Sustain, disregard.
Which one, Mike?
What I expect that all the evidence will show in this case is that this evidence, quite candidly,
I'm sorry,
is manufactured.
Objection.
Mr. Haggard.
I'm sorry.
There's going to be a line of no return. If you want me to do it, go ahead.
He said it again. Isn't it just weird, though? You're right, Ed. Times don't change. Just the people. Weird.
I expect that after you examine the soundness of the reasons in this case, you will certainly have reasons for reasonable doubt.
I'll let you go into that.
I'll let him go into that.
And these reasons for reasonable doubt, I expect, will continue with Ted Bundy throughout this trial.
Poor court
and
reporter.
right until you retire into the jury room. And it's based upon those reasonable doubts that I believe that you will find Ted Bundy innocent of these charges.
Objection.
Mr. Haggard.
Yes, Sean.
That's the end of the line.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I love this judge, too.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are going to recess at this time. We're going to discharge you first and let you return back Monday morning at 9 o'clock. We'll again caution you while you're in sequestration, do not discuss this case or what you've heard.
Ed, I feel the same way. So put a 1 in chat if you want to do a watch party, and we'll go through Ted Bundy's trial together and watch the different phases, because the opening statements blew my mind, because we've got the eyewitness of Dylan versus Miss Nita, and I just think that it could be really interesting to do. So let me know if that's something that you would be interested in doing. That concludes the defense opening statements. But there's plenty more where that came from. We've got Bundy cross-examining the actual witnesses. So that's something we can do. We can do when we have some downtime. Coming up, though, we have on Monday, Lori Vallow is being sentenced. We will definitely do that. Hi, Miss Shell. Lori Vallow's sentencing on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we are back for day 3 of Ethan Crumbley's Miller hearing. And then we got to get caught up on all the Kohberger shit. So we've got that coming up. And yeah, but we will do this, because this is almost like, that's why I said, looking into the future. It's weird. So thank you to all the lovely, lovely listeners that called in tonight. You guys are great. I love your opinions. Eddie, don't ever change. Much respect to Pat and Teresa and Oki and everybody else who called in. Sabrina. Hopefully we can do this again soon. If you missed this live and you're a replayer, we do have a hotline open, the same number. We have a voicemail. You want to leave us a voicemail, or you're too afraid to call in? Not afraid. If you're shy, you can leave us a voicemail, and we may use it in one of the live streams. So exciting stuff, ways for you to connect with the podcast and get your thoughts out there, whatever way you're the most comfortable. So thank you so much. I want to give you guys all this outro. You guys can dance it out. Enjoy your Saturday night. Tomorrow is my oldest son's 28th birthday. So we're going to do a birthday, and then we're going to dance this mofo out. Thanks, everyone. Make sure you hit that like button, too.
Go, shorty. It's your birthday.
Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn.
It looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck.
Did I ask you what somebody I don't even know thinks?
You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to France, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that.
What I have to say to N.C. Taylor, the defense lawyer, bring it on, woman. Bryan Kohberger. Unleash the lawyers.
Is it one Jennifer or two Jennifers?
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks so much, Jennifer.